Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Life Simulation, I Am Above Time. Chapter 81. In the past 3 years since you disappeared, the atmosphere in Tianshui sect has become even more indifferent. You have also seen those immortal cultivators who have taken your elixir. They have animal bodies without any shame. A big rooster walks past you with its head held high, without any resentment toward you. It also comes over and wants to buy you some more pills that can improve your cultivation. No rush, no rush. It will happen. You smiled and nodded, dismissing it. In the past 3 years, the immortal cultivators have never helped the people again. The people were also disappointed and did not come again. In addition to Tianshui sect, other sects may be the same. For Tianshui sect, I am heartbroken. You look at the full moon in the sky and sigh slightly. Your cultivation is progressing too slowly, so let me help you. You secretly opened a jar and poured all the powder inside into the water jar. This powder is a good thing you refined. It is the Peiyuan pill that improves your cultivation. However, after you add some strange medicinal materials, there are some side effects. Now that they are determined to become immortals, they will definitely not care. You looked at the powder blending into all the large water tanks and smiled happily. Unless cultivators reach the nascent soul stage, they still have to use grains. On the morning of the next day, the cultivators below the nascent soul stage all felt their cultivation loosen after drinking rice porridge made from spiritual rice. Only the improvement of cultivation can make them happy. They quickly started practicing. What happened? Wang Ming practiced for a while and opened his eyes. His breathing was slightly rapid, his face was red, and he couldn't calm down. Is it an invasion of inner demons? Wang Ming did not dare to neglect and quickly took Qingxin pill to control his restless heart. However, it was okay if he didn't take it. After taking it, the restlessness in his body became more intense. Puff! His spiritual energy was restless and he couldn't help spitting out a mouthful of blood. Wang Ming was frightened and hurriedly left the cave, wanting to ask the teacher. However, as soon as he left the cave, he saw a pair of pink rabbit ears. He was slightly startled. His eyes moved down, and he saw the rabbit female cultivator Lin Laner. Lin Laner's rabbit eyes became redder, her skin was pink and her breathing was very rapid. The two happened to meet each other and were stunned when they saw each other. Brother Ming, Lan Mei, the two looked in a trance. 3 years ago they were inseparable and deeply in love with each other. But at some point, they all lost interest and naturally separated. In the past 3 years, even if they met, they were just ordinary classmates. When they met today, their hearts suddenly became extremely restless. They came closer, their breaths patted each other's cheeks, and then they hugged each other tightly. Not just them, all immortal cultivators below the nascent soul stage have begun to become restless. Moreover, the more they suppressed it, the more primitive desire that seemed to come from the depths of their souls grew. Finally, they couldn't bear it anymore and began their courtship journey. Not bad. You stand on the top of Alchemy Peak, looking at the entire Tianshui sect. You heard many voices rising and falling here. They are primitive desires and the origin of life. That night, a donkey climbed up from his Taoist companion and sat there in a daze. What's wrong with you? A pair of jade hands as white as lotus roots were wrapped around his neck. There's something wrong, Lu Jian murmured. What's wrong? The woman asked curiously. Why is everyone looking for a Taoist companion today? And it's developing so fast. Lu Jian's donkey eyes shone with wisdom. It's a bit strange. The woman snuggled into his arms and said softly, but I like the feeling now. Lu Jian also nodded. He found that besides cultivating immortals, there were actually many things worth caring about. He recalled that in the past 3 years, apart from practicing, he had no emotions or desires. Desire, love, hate, anger. He is gradually degrading these emotions. Lu Jian couldn't help but feel a little chill when he recalled it. Wait, anger, hatred. Lu Jian's eyes narrowed, and an idea suddenly came to his mind, and he suddenly remembered that unforgettable figure. Has Zhang Tianxuan returned to the mountain? Lu Jian asked suddenly. The female cultivator is the registration manager. She nodded slightly and said, I came back yesterday. It's him, it's definitely him. Lu Jian's face turned red, and the shadow in his heart emerged again 3 years later. The changes in the mountain gate this time are definitely related to this dog thief. He made me become a donkey, and now I have lost my virginity. Lu Jian gritted his teeth, with a look of resentment in his eyes. Lu Jian relied on his tenacious willpower to come out of Wenru Township and secretly came to Alchemy Peak to stay there. Sure enough, he really saw you coming down from the mountain. You secretly walk in front, and he secretly follows behind. Lu Jian watched you sprinkle the medicinal powder into the water tank with his own eyes. He looked excited and recorded the scene. The next day, your matter came out. You were taken to the law enforcement hall. The law enforcement elder looked at you and said coldly, "What did you spread?" For the sake of the cultivation of the entire sect, I spent my own money to refine the Peiyuan pill. You said with a look of regret, "I didn't expect my good intentions to be so wasted." You handed over the powder, and after inspection by the law enforcement hall, it was found that it was indeed Peiyuan Dan with a very pure concentration. The law enforcement elder also personally tested the medicine, and his cultivation level fluctuated a little, but there were also some other weird feelings. That feeling was not poison, so the law enforcement elder ignored it. Your sincerity towards the sect has been rewarded. Zhang Tianxuan, in the secret, there are immortal cultivators looking at you with gnashing teeth, with incomparable anger and resentment. Not all immortal cultivators can find Taoist companions, so many immortal cultivators can only find people from the same Taoist path. There are even some immortal cultivators who seek out ferocious beasts to communicate their feelings. Their emotions have been trampled on, and this debt is all on your head. After you continued to complain in front of them for a few days, they finally broke out. Behead the traitor Zhang Tianxuan. The scum of immortal cultivators shall die. The cancer in the world of immortality, I will do justice for heaven. Hundreds of immortal cultivators have united to attack you again after 3 years. You looked excited and shouted loudly, "Don't hurt me. Everyone come up shoulder to shoulder, this time we will definitely kill this beast. My son." At the front of the crowd, Lu Jian, the donkey, is the fastest. That day, after he met you again, his mood fluctuated, and he directly advanced to the late stage of foundation building. He is confident that he can definitely kill you now, and even if he fails, he can seriously injure you. Lu Jian threw away his hoof, jumped directly behind you, and then stamped his hoof hard on the back of your heart. Ah, son. As if the scene from 3 years ago was repeated, you and Lu Jian both screamed and flew out, spurting blood. PFF, how could this happen? Lu Jian was lying on the ground, his eyes were dull and he lost his ability to move. It hurts. You ignored the pain and rolled out, otherwise everyone would come up at once and you wouldn't be able to bear it. This battle lasted for 1 day. It should be said that it was a one-sided beating. Many cultivators have united to beat you. But at the end, you were still standing there in high spirits, while the immortal cultivators who were chasing you all lay down. Foundation building has reached its peak. You licked your lips, fascinated by the pleasure of rapidly increasing strength. The farce should end. Suddenly, a figure in white appears in front of you. He looks at you coldly, with strong resentment in his eyes. You are slightly shocked. Finally there is trouble for you in the pill formation stage. Zhang Tianxuan, you deserve to die. The man in white's strong murderous intent made the surrounding area extremely cold. Senior brother, why do you want to kill me? You asked carefully. Me. The man in white looks handsome, but his face is bruised and purple. Xiao Lian, why are you avoiding me? At this moment, a big rooster ran over with its wings flapping and looked at the man in white with an affectionate look. The man in white looks at you expressionlessly, with 2 lines of tears streaming down his face. You smiled coquettishly. This is their fate. Can I blame you? Suffer death. The man in white doesn't say any more, it's his killing move. He summoned a flying sword and appeared in front of you instantly. Not good. You slapped your right palm out and hit the flying sword. Puff. There is a huge wound on your palm, and blood is flowing out. Snort. The man in white groaned, and there were also wounds on his hands. The man in white is shocked. He knows that you have practiced the hedgehog skill, but can your hedgehog function reach this level? Xiao Lian, don't hurt him. You will be hurt too. The big rooster cackled anxiously. Get out. The man in white turned red, and slapped the big cock away. Senior brother, accept your heart. You left him alone. You said with a smile. Zhanjiang, I want you to die. The man in white's face turned red, and his spiritual power fluctuated violently. Boom! A dark cloud appears above your head. Fall. The man in white spits out a mouthful of blood, lightning flashes in the dark clouds, and a bolt of thunder suddenly falls. Boom! Along with the electric current, a violent explosion sounded. 2 screams sounded almost at the same time, and then 2 burned black bodies were seen flying out. Your whole body is trembling constantly, and the powerful current is destroying your body, causing your meridians to break. However, your hedgehog skill operates spontaneously, swallowing the current in your body with all its strength. Not only that, your "don't hurt me" passive is also activated, and the current is quickly transformed into your power. Breathe, breathe, you panted violently, and the spiritual power in your body fluctuated violently. Boom! The vitality of heaven and earth rushes toward your body quickly, and a golden elixir is formed in your dantian. You have made a breakthrough and become a pill-forming immortal cultivator. You stood up unsteadily and looked at the man in white. He was covered in electric current and had passed out. The big rooster cried loudly, and regardless of the electric current, he forcibly picked him up. Zhang Tianxuan, you are a devil. The big rooster made his final accusation to you, then hugged the man and left. I facilitated your marriage, why do you still need to scold me? You shook your head and sighed, feeling very helpless. After this time, no one will come to trouble you. However, they have also increased their vigilance and do not dare to eat randomly. So much so that in the following days, Tianshui sect began to calm down again. You are not surprised at all by this, but you don't have time to deal with these things. You are seriously refining alchemy. Every time you complete the elixir, a large amount of dense fog will appear. However, you practiced a small spell and directly drove away these thick fogs. The thick fog diluted in Tianshui sect and disappeared. Why am I so careful, but the lust in my body still keeps erupting? Lu Jian walked out of the cave from the room holding his waist, feeling a little confused. He has investigated and found that not only his side, but also other immortal cultivators are similar. And, she is pregnant. Lu Jian didn't know what expression to show on his face, he felt happy and confused at the same time. This immortal, why is his cultivation not right? In Tianshui sect, pregnant female cultivators appear one after another. This makes many immortal cultivators immersed in complex emotions, and they can no longer practice this ruthless avenue. As the dense fog becomes more and more dense, the immortal cultivators in the nascent soul stage also absorb a lot while swallowing. The restlessness finally appeared in their Gujingbubo hearts. Damn it, what's going on? An elder left the cave angrily, and then saw another female elder. The two looked at each other, and the old face couldn't help but blush slightly. It's Zhang Tianxuan, he refines medicine every day, and a lot of thick fog appears. After we absorb the thick fog, we will become restless. Lu Jian stood in front of everyone and complained loudly. Everyone, we are like playthings in Zhang Tianxuan's hands, we cannot continue like this. That's right, all of us have to take action today and must kill this devil. This time, all immortal cultivators below the nascent soul stage have reached a consensus. Boom! While you were working hard on refining the elixir, the door of the cave exploded. You look around in shock, seeing the dense crowd of people outside, all looking at you expressionlessly. You smiled awkwardly and waved your hand. Hello everyone. Before, it was a small-scale riot, but now almost all immortal cultivators below nascent soul have taken action. You didn't have time to escape or even speak, your body was drowned in various attacks. Boom! The violent explosion caused the cave to collapse directly. Especially when the dozens of people in the alchemy stage took action together, the spiritual power in this space became extremely chaotic. Along with the explosion, countless screams sounded. Many of the attacking immortal cultivators vomited blood and flew backwards. The higher the cultivation level, the more serious the damage will be received. Puff! You ran out of the ruins of the cave with your hair disheveled. Your clothes have become ragged and your body is full of blood stains. You are vomiting blood while running. The attack is too fierce, and you can't bear it. Evil thief, stop leaving. The less injured person hurriedly chased after him. The riot in the whole sect finally alerted the leader. It's just that you didn't do anything else besides refining alchemy. Furthermore, apart from becoming lustful, immortal cultivators have no other disadvantages. In fact, the cultivation of many immortal cultivators has increased faster. At this time, many people are a little unstable. They have given up love and desire and only have cultivation in mind, but they are not so fast. Now that I think about creating humans every day, why do I practice faster? Is it wrong to cut off love and sex? This idea suddenly pops up in the minds of many immortal cultivators. However, their soft words cannot affect the immortal cultivators in the nascent soul stage, so they can only communicate these things in secret. You were not punished by the leader. After walking around in front of everyone, you returned to your new cave. You have not stopped refining alchemy, and you have intensified it. You have refined many elixirs and produced dense fog with various effects. For example, lust, anger, excitement, negativity. You are not only refining alchemy, but you are also working hard to promote it in the crowd every day, telling everyone that you did it. Poison, trap, sneak attack. The immortal cultivators have used various methods to deal with you. It's just that in the end, they were the only ones hurt. Although you will be injured, you will soon become more alive and kicking, and you will become stronger. This made the immortal cultivators collapse. After seeing you, they did not dare to take action and ran away when they saw you. Senior brother, have you made no progress in your cultivation? It's progressing very quickly. I'm about to form a pill. But when I think of Zhang Tianxuan, I can't be happy. Me too. It was originally a communication meeting, but it became a meeting for them to complain. Brothers, there are people at the bottom of the mountain coming to ask for help. I will drive them away right now. At this time, a disciple guarding the mountain came up to report. Wait a moment. Lu Jian's eyes lit up. Don't drive him away. I'm going down the mountain. I won't see the devil Zhang Tianxuan. He stood up hurriedly and faced the people with a smile on his face. Junior brother, there are many dangers at the foot of the mountain, so let me take care of them. A man in white quickly stood up. I haven't helped people for a long time, I like to help them. Yes, in the past it was because I wanted to cut off my love and lust, so I stopped helping the people. Now I find that lust does not actually affect cultivation. Those anxious people originally thought they would return empty-handed, or even be killed casually by the cruel immortal cultivators. Unexpectedly, when they looked up, there were dozens of immortal cultivators running over with excitement on their faces. Look at it, if you can't help them, they will be in great pain. High on the mountain, you can't help but smile when you look at this scene. Zan Yang used force and forcibly suppressed it, and then he changed the immortal cultivator. However, you don't know how long your method can last. Next, you start targeting the immortal cultivators in the nascent soul stage. This will be a very long process. 50 years later, violent energy fluctuations suddenly broke out in Tianshui sect. Under the leadership of the leader, everyone chased the figure in front with great anger. Over the years, you have used various means to finally make all the immortal cultivators in the sect hate you. You shouted while running away, Master, I really didn't tell you about your tryst with the elder of Peach Blossom Peak. Rebel, shut up. The leader and an attractive young woman screamed loudly. They burst out with energy and attack you. It's just that their eyes were very fearful and they only used very little strength. Sure enough, when their attacks hit you, you were barely injured. On the contrary, their faces turned red and blood overflowed from the corners of their mouths. He is just a hedgehog, how can we fight him? The young woman stamped her feet, her delicate body trembling with anger. We can only use the sect protecting formation. Under the guidance of the leader, all the immortal cultivators input their spiritual power into the sect protecting formation. A water dragon tens of thousands of meters long appears in midair. It raised its head slightly and hummed, causing hundreds of miles of spiritual energy to riot, and it started pouring rain. The leader controls the water dragon and points at you. The water dragon groans, opens its mouth, and water balls hit you like cannonballs. Each of these water bombs is a full blow in the early stage of becoming a god. And there are hundreds of such water bombs. The water bomb hit you with all its strength and landed on you. Don't hurt me. You let out a final scream and was drowned inside. I don't know how long it took, but the water dragon disappeared. You are lying in a newly formed 1,000-meter lake, slowly recovering from your injuries. On the other side, all the Tianshui sect members were also lying on the ground. They have long been accustomed to all this. I just didn't expect that even using the water dragon formation, I still can't do anything to you. The leader struggled to stand up and walked staggeringly in front of you. You glanced at it and said feebly, Master, you can kill or behead me as you wish. The leader's face turned green and red. If he could kill you, wouldn't he have killed you already? He suddenly knelt in front of you and said painfully, Zhang Tianxuan, please let our Tianshui sect go. You sat up and asked seriously, Master, do you think immortal cultivators should be affectionate or ruthless? The leader was slightly silent and did not speak. If it were before, he would have said it was ruthless without hesitation. Because this is the supreme law in the world of immortality, no one doubts this. It's just the experience of the past 50 years that has shaken him. He is tortured to death by you every day, so there is no time for him to be ruthless. However, his cultivation has grown rapidly, and he has reached the late stage of divine transformation. He has not improved in cultivation for nearly 100 years. Not just him, almost all other immortal cultivators are like this. It is wrong to be sentimental or ruthless. Only by following your heart can you have clear thoughts. You stretched and spoke calmly. Follow your heart. The leader said with a dark face, is your original intention to harm Tianshui sect? You look down the mountain and smile lightly. Your eyes darkened slightly, Master, my original plan was to visit other sects. But, I don't have time now. Go to other sects. The leader is a little excited. In the past few decades, Tianshui sect has been turned upside down by you. It's time for them to have a taste of this. The leader looks at you and asks confusedly, what do you mean there is no time? Why, don't you know anything about the happenings in the world? You glanced at the leader. The leader's heart moved, are you talking about those big cities that disappeared? You nodded. 20 years ago, in hundreds of countries, the population of a county suddenly disappeared from time to time. The number of people who disappear each time is not large, probably thousands to tens of thousands. It's as if they don't exist in this world. This has brought great panic to the rulers and people of these countries. They reported it to the Immortal Sect, but the Immortal Sect didn't pay attention. The Tianshui sect is an exception. The leader sent many people to investigate. He even personally conducted a secret investigation for 5 years. Zhang Tianxuan, do you know the reason? The leader asked curiously, I haven't found anything through investigation. You looked at him with a half smile but not a smile, it's because we haven't investigated it yet, so we still dare not say anything. The leader was speechless. Zanyang destroyed the Holy Land, but the Holy Land is still in your hearts. You shook your head in disappointment. The leader's eyes darkened, is it really a Holy Land? After 5 years of investigation, he hastily stopped. Because his clue finally pointed to the abyss of the Holy Land. After the destruction of the Holy Land, it turned into an abyss with a radius of tens of thousands of miles. There is a constant flow of demonic energy there. Not to mention mortals, even those who are cultivating immortals in the realm of gods will be surrounded by inner demons if they are close to Bailey. There is a danger of becoming possessed. An ancestor from the tribulation stage wanted to go in to check, but when he reached the edge of the abyss, he escaped in embarrassment. That is pure malice and evil thoughts. The lethality to immortal cultivators is especially terrifying. Master, sooner or later there will be a catastrophe in this world. If you continue to be obsessed with bullshit and ruthless sex, I'm afraid the world will really be over. You look at the leader seriously, Tianshui sect has changed. As for whether other sects can change, it depends on you. Zhang Tianxuan, what do you want to do? The leader's heart skipped a beat. A smile appeared on the corner of your mouth, of course I'm going to have a look at the abyss. You are crazy, you can't even enter the tribulation period. How could you possibly do that? The leader said in shock. You laughed loudly, Master, don't you want to kill me? Why are you worried about me now? He was a little confused. Yes, the whole sect wants to kill you, why should we worry about you? My true heart. You laughed and shook your head, Master, goodbye. You turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky. When other people from the sect came to the leader, they only saw him looking in the distance in a daze. Sect master, where is that devil Zhang Tianxuan? A disciple asked. He will never appear again. The leader said softly. Died, haha, this devil is finally dead. We will never be tortured by him again. We can do whatever we want from now on. Many cultivators were stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter. Just laughing and laughing, the voice becomes lower and lower. They look ugly and their breathing is slightly rapid. The elder of Peach Blossom Peak smiled stiffly. Master, are you kidding me? How could he die? He is indeed not dead. The leader nodded. I'm just saying, the harm will last for thousands of years. HMPH, when he comes back, I will definitely kill him next time. As soon as many immortal cultivators started shouting, they heard the leader faintly say, he went to the Holy Land's abyss. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. What's the difference between this and dying? Why does he want to go there? Everyone is at a loss. Because those disappeared people have something to do with the abyss. He wants to investigate this matter. The leader spoke softly. Everyone was silent, which is in line with Zhang Tianxuan's character. They have long discovered that you care about the suffering of the people more than anyone else. Lu Jian gritted his teeth. He will definitely come back. I will wait for him and kill him with my own hands. That's right, bastard, you must come back alive. Everyone spoke softly, saying words that were unclear whether they were curses or blessings. Perhaps, they themselves don't know. The leader took a deep breath and looked at everyone. Starting today, we will re-establish the sect rules. The so-called ruthless way and the so-called severing of love and desire are nonsense. You must remember what Zhang Tianxuan said, those who want to cultivate immortality should follow their original intention in order to achieve the great truth. Only by following your heart can you follow the right path. Everyone murmured to themselves, and a kind of understanding appeared in their hearts. You are not going to die as everyone says. This last battle allowed you to successfully break through to the combined state. Now, except for those hidden old monsters, no immortal cultivator can hurt you. So, you are eyeing the Holy Land abyss. As soon as you approached the abyss, you felt evil energy invading your body. Your strength is slowly growing. You have indeed come to the right place. You stood at the entrance of the abyss and jumped in without hesitation. Buzz. Your body is being torn apart and falling quickly towards the abyss. You feel the endless icy air and the power of the curse. This is not an abyss, but a real hell. Your ears are filled with countless miserable howls and vicious curses. Various evil forces are constantly impacting your body and soul, trying to drag you into hell. You seem to have entered endless darkness, with no light at all. This feeling makes you extremely painful and desperate. It's just that in this despair, the strength in your body keeps growing, giving you courage. Call out. At this moment, a vicious breath rushed towards your face, grabbing your head fiercely. Your head flashes slightly, then falls on your shoulder. Boom. Your right arm was frozen directly and you lost consciousness. The terrifying monster with green face and fangs on the opposite side howled miserably and exploded into black mist, blending into the darkness. Before you can breathe a sigh of relief, more and more monsters appear around you. They are salivating and looking at you with vicious and greedy eyes. With almost no time to think, their attack falls on you. You are descending rapidly at this time and cannot stabilize your body at all. Moreover, the power of these evil spirits is much stronger than yours, and you have no power to resist. Their attacks contain curses and poisons, making you unable to move. You can only curl up and let these attacks fall on you. Your body is constantly bursting with blood and being swallowed by these monsters. Fortunately, your "don't hurt me" has exerted the power of its golden entry. Every monster will explode and die after attacking you. It seems that they cannot withstand their own attacks. As you fall rapidly, the evil spirits around you become stronger and stronger. At the end, their attacks can even kill the tribulation stage. And your physical body, in this constant attack, is rapidly improving at a speed visible to the naked eye. Early, middle and late stages of integration. Boom. I don't know how long it took, but your body hit the ground. Is it the end? You coughed out a mouthful of blood and used your spiritual consciousness to explore the surroundings. The surroundings are endless darkness and evil, with only the countless monsters roaring and rushing toward you. You can only hold your head and passively receive the beating. I don't know how long this process lasted. Boom. You blocked a ghost claw that was attacking you and said coldly, "Have you fought enough?" A brilliant golden light blooms from your body, which is extremely dazzling in this darkness. All the evil spirits are rushing towards your body like crazy. It's just that you are different now from before. Endless golden light blooms on your body, and countless golden fists blast away at the opponent. You can always be beaten passively, but this will prevent you from venting your inner anger. You saw it, you saw the endless white bones under your feet. It's self-evident what these bones are. Only killing can vent the anger in your heart. You are fighting against countless evil spirits while walking forward. The evil spirit there is even more intense, making you feel like you are walking in a swamp. In the end, even just walking is exhausting. In this darkness, there is no concept of time. I don't know how much time has passed, but you finally came to the end. In front of you, a black door appears. The gate is 99 feet high, with extremely mysterious patterns carved on it. The door opened with a gap more than 1 meter wide, and endless dark breath poured out from inside. Not only the aura of darkness, but also countless monsters emerged from the gaps. You looked at the door and fell into silence. You are hesitating whether to go in or not. Are you scared? Afraid of shit? Henry Jong rolled his eyes speechlessly. Lousy was afraid that after entering, you would pretend to be dead again and end the simulation. I hope the system can give it some strength and stop it from crashing again. You sighed and thought to yourself. You finally decided to enter the black door. You slipped in through the gap, and it seemed like you entered another world after entering. Hey, the system is so powerful. Henry Jong was taken aback. He thought the system was about to end again. The darkness here is different from the outside world. The strong evil spirit impacts your mind. If your soul had not been tempered in the abyss, otherwise you would have been deformed into a monster. I'm afraid even the immortals won't be able to gain a foothold here. Your eyes glowed with golden light and you looked around. This is a black land with continuous mountain peaks in the endless distance. In the sky and on the earth, all kinds of evil spirits are flying. There are even black lakes where evil spirits exist. On the ground, there are piles of white bones spread out. A gust of evil wind blew by, and the bones turned into ashes and disappeared. You rise into the sky and fly towards the distance. I don't know how far you have flown, and you suddenly see an extremely vast river that spans an unknown number of miles. You may even feel that this may be a vast ocean. The river is extremely dark in color and exudes a fishy and evil atmosphere. In the river, there is a terrifying smell swimming by from time to time. It is the evil spirit in the black water. You let out a sigh, and you discovered that there was a broken stone tablet by the river. You walk up and read the words on it carefully. Tianhe. The writing on it is very blurry, you can barely make out these two big characters. Under the stone tablet, there seem to be some small words. Over 800, have people from all eternity walked. As you read the words above, they feel more and more familiar. It seems like you have heard of it somewhere. Would you like to cross the river and have a look? While you were still hesitating, something suddenly happened. Suddenly, huge waves hundreds of meters high appeared in the river, crashing towards you on the shore. The terrifying power makes your pupils shrink violently. This is beyond transcending tribulation and is a power at the level of an immortal. The huge wave is too large and you can't avoid it. You roared, and a strong golden light bloomed from your body. Open. A 100-meter golden fist shadow appears and hits the huge waves fiercely. Boom. A violent explosion sounded, and your body was thrown away. Blood is constantly spurting out from your mouth. An attack of this level will do too much damage to you. Before you even hit the ground, a shadow appeared instantly and hit your waist. A strong force hits your lower back, making your belly bulge upward. Puff. Your body was thrown out again, a large mouthful of blood spurted out of your mouth, and there were even broken internal organs. You were sent flying several thousand meters before being hit hard on the ground. It hurts. You stood up with a painful look on your face and looked towards the direction of the river. In the dark river, a huge thing rose. Its body is extremely huge, with thick limbs. However, these limbs have no flesh and blood at all, they are pure bones. It carries a huge shell on its body, which is dark black and has several mysterious words engraved on it. In the eyes of the skull, there are countless innocent souls roaring and screaming inside. Isn't this a big turtle? Where's the meat on your body? You couldn't help but complain. The hollow eyes look at you, and the sharp teeth protrude, looking very ferocious. Its mouth opens and closes, seems to be saying something. You slowly approached and finally heard what it was saying. When will I get out of my shell and gain a human body? You look at this huge skeleton with a sympathetic expression on your face. It's easy to break out of this shell, but I'm afraid I won't be able to become a human being. At this point, you are finally sure what this skeleton turtle is. You can also confirm the name of this river. The name of this river is Tongtian River, and the 2 lines of small characters read, "It has passed 800 miles, and few people have traveled it since ancient times." Single quote closing square bracket. This turtle is the 1,000-year-old turtle Yuan. If this is the Tongtian River, then this world is the Chinese world. The scene of the dragon and phoenix tribulation in ancient times appears in your mind. At that time, Shizan prevented the destruction of the world. Unexpectedly, the world is still destroyed. No, this world is under this abyss. There is another Chinese world above. So, part of China was destroyed. But why does the destroyed world appear in this black gate? If this is really the Tongtian River, then the west is. If you look across the river and keep walking to the west, can you reach Lingshan Mountain? The world is shattered. Are Lingshan still there? Are the Buddhas in Lingshan still there? Did they disappear, or did they end up with the same fate as the old turtle? You urgently want to know the result. It's just that although this old turtle has turned into an evil spirit, he is still very strong. With your strength, I'm afraid you won't be able to pass. When will I get out of my shell and gain a human body? The old turtle continues to stare at you and mutter something. You feel something in your heart and cough softly. "Old turtle, there is Buddha on the other side of the river. You take me across the river, and I will help you. Ask how long your life is." The old skeleton turtle looks at you and remains silent. You touched your nose awkwardly, preparing to think of another way. "Okay." The old turtle nodded his skull slowly. "I'll go." You were shocked, seeing the old turtle turn around and swim towards the west. You jumped up in a hurry and flew onto the old turtle's back. Sure enough, the old turtle really didn't attack you. How deep is your obsession? You sigh softly, but it is a pity that this is an answer that will never bear fruit. Your presence is like a candle in the darkness, so dazzling. In the Tongtian River, huge waves are rolling, and various deformed monsters jump out from time to time, trying to eat you. However, the old turtle opened its mouth wide, and no matter how many evil spirits came out, it was swallowed into its belly. 800 miles leads to the Tianhe River, and you passed it without suffering much difficulty. You landed on the solid ground, looking a little emotional. You look behind you, and the old turtle just looks at you with its empty eyes. It exudes an extremely evil aura, but you seem to see hope in its eyes. "Feel sorry," you said something silently, and then headed towards the west without hesitation. Along the way, you have tried your best to restrain your breath. It's just that it's still inevitable to be discovered by various evil spirits. You are almost walking towards the west while fighting. Your body becomes more and more powerful, and the aura exuding from your body becomes more and more powerful. At the end, you soar into the sky, knocking away all the evil spirits, and fly towards the west like a rampage. Most evil spirits are below the level of immortals and can hardly cause any harm to you. Those powerful evil spirits, you can feel the evil spirits soaring into the sky before you get close to them, so you can avoid them as soon as possible. In this dark and gloomy world, there are no living creatures except evil spirits. You are here and have completely lost the concept of time. I don't know how much time has passed, but another big river appears in front of you. You looked at Da and couldn't help but feel stunned. Your eyes are filled with intense and incredible colors. It's not that this river exudes a more terrifying aura than the Tongtian River, nor is it that there are powerful evil spirits in it. But it has clear water, light blue waves, and is extremely clear. In the river, there are also birds perching and pecking at the fish in the water. Have I already exited the black door? You were a little confused. It's just that when you look back at the road ahead, the evil darkness rushes towards you, making you realize the reality. You suppress the doubts in your heart and walk forward. Perhaps seeing you coming, a small boat came from a distance. A strong woman on the boat looks at you and smiles. "My dear, do you want to cross the river?" You jumped on the boat and asked the woman, "What country is this?" If nothing else, would you like to drink a bowl of water? The woman held a teacup and looked at you expectantly. You refuse with a smile on your face. It still doesn't work, I'm afraid I'm pregnant. Oh, it seems you know how powerful my Zimuhe is. The expression on the woman's face faded. Is it really the Ziliang women's kingdom? You were slightly shocked. If you look into the distance, you can see a city. In the city, there are warblers and swallows reaching your ears. The laughter, playfulness and slapstick make you feel that this is a normal world. Baby, don't you want to have a baby? The woman didn't give up and asked again. You thought for a while and asked, if I drink the water, will I have a boy or a girl, or an evil spirit? What evil spirit? I don't understand what you are talking about. The woman shook her head with a smile and rode towards the city. This city is very majestic and has a kind of magnificence that no other city has. The city is bustling with people, all of them women. The stalls on both sides mostly sell women's items. You just entered the city, and all the women playing on the street fell silent instantly. They all turned their heads and looked at you with burning eyes. It's a man. A woman moaned softly, her voice full of tears. It's a man. They have fiery eyes and are approaching you. What do you want to do? Your eyes widened, and a strong golden light bloomed on your body. The golden light is so bright that it directly knocks away a woman who was stroking your chest. The woman broke through many stalls and slammed into the wall. Plop, her body pressed against the wall, and then fell to the ground. Due to the violent impact, her head was broken off, showing a twisted posture. The woman stood up unsteadily, fumbled with her hands to connect her head, and then looked at you fiercely. People like violent young men. The woman said delicately. If you were normal women, I would obey. What a pity. This scene did not surprise you, it just confirmed your suspicions. Phew, it looks like they're going to be killed. There is a strong killing intent in your eyes, looking at these thousands of women. There are so many women, when will they be finished killing? Your body is trembling slightly, and you seem very excited. System, I've tolerated you for a long time. Don't make me look like a pervert. Henry Zhang couldn't help complaining. I'm obviously worried that there are too many enemies to kill, but I'm not excited. Just when these women were about to pounce on you, they heard the sound of horse hooves. Everyone stop it. A heroic female soldier pushed aside all the women and said loudly, Your Majesty has summoned you, so why don't you follow me and go to see you immediately? Okay, you looked very interested, this is the king of the daughter country. You followed the female soldier into the palace. The palace is majestic and majestic, surrounded by beautiful gardens and green grasslands. Various beasts and birds are either foraging or taking a nap on it, forming a very beautiful picture. It's incredible. You shake your head slightly. After you entered the palace, you looked up without any hesitation. On the dragon chair, there is a queen sitting in luxurious clothes. She has both the demeanor of a king and the temperament of a fairy. Her complexion is as white as suet, her face is delicate and gorgeous, her eyes are bright and deep, and her eyes are enchanting and noble. This unique temperament makes your breathing stop slightly for a moment. You lower your head slightly. I've met the queen. Raise your head. The queen whispered, like a pearl falling into a jade plate, as clear and sweet as a pearl. You raise your head and look at the queen. The queen's eyes flickered slightly, and a very complicated smell suddenly emerged. Is it you, or not you? The queen whispered to herself. What's your name and where are you from? The queen asked. Zhang Tianxuan, you came from a very far away place. You responded calmly. Is it a far away place? The queen pondered and said, Do you have anything to ask? Of course. You pointed around. This world is full of evil spirits, why is it different here? It's just a cover-up. The queen shook her head slightly. This place is no different from the outside world. You look at the queen in surprise. Are you maintaining the illusion here? It's me. The queen nodded. Why is this? You looked confused. I'm waiting for someone. He said he would come back to me. The queen sighed slightly. I was afraid that he would dislike this place, so I have maintained it. You nodded. The person the queen was talking about was probably Tang Monk, right? However, Tang Sang has a high probability of dying. He will not die, he will definitely come back. The queen seems to know what you are thinking, and looks at you steadily, very firmly. You asked carefully, then you too. The queen looks at you with a half smile, what do you think? You quickly change the subject. Queen, what happened to this world and why it became like this? I am just a little girl, so insignificant in this world. The queen shook her head. I don't know anything. When I wake up, this place has become a paradise for monsters. Okay, then queen, just wait, I'm leaving. You cupped your hand. Wait, the queen stopped you. It's bad, you don't want me to be the king. You are no longer the person you used to be. The queen said softly, I'm tired, can you end everything here? You looked surprised, aren't you waiting for him? No wait, it's no longer necessary. The queen shook her head slightly. Well, you said regretfully, I may not have this ability. If it's you, I can definitely do it. The queen did not give you another chance to refuse, she stood up slowly. As she stood up, a vicious evil spirit swept out instantly. Boom, the powerful dark storm blasts your body out of the palace. When you stabilize your body, look at the original Ziliang Women's City. It has changed its appearance. This is a city that exudes evil and darkness, with layers of black clouds floating in the city. In the city, countless twisted monsters appeared. They are covered in abscesses and exude a fishy and evil aura. They look at you and make a harsh roar, stimulating your soul. There is a very regretful look on your face. You really like the way they look in the illusion. You look towards the palace, the evil aura exuding there is thousands of times that of other places. The breath slowly comes out and appears in front of you. You are slightly startled. It is not the weird and evil thing you imagined, it is just a skeleton. The skeleton looks at you, it sees your shocked eyes. In its hollow eyes, 2 lines of black tears flowed down. It looked at you and roared silently. Your heart is shaken, feeling her painful and desperate mental fluctuations. I understand, you whispered to yourself. It lost its sanity and turned into a completely evil spirit. With its roar, all the evil spirits of a country will rise into the sky and come towards you to kill you. You are like a sun, blooming with endless golden light, falling from the sky. The entire sky seems to be divided into 2 halves, one half is dark and the other half is golden light. The two collided with each other at the speed of a meteorite falling. In an instant, the sky and the earth turned pale, and the whole world fell into deathly silence. After a breath, the explosion sounded loudly, the world was turned upside down, and the stars were moving. Golden light is obviously much weaker than darkness. You only lasted a few breaths before you were swallowed up by darkness. In the endless darkness, there is only that ray of light struggling hard. Kill. This is the evil spirit of a country. If you had encountered it before, you would have fought and retreated at the same time. But now, you don't want to escape. Chi and blood surge all over your body, and countless attacks fall on you and are bounced back. Part of the remaining power is destroying your body, and part is repairing your body. Your aura becomes more and more powerful, and the golden light begins to spread to the surroundings again. I don't know how much time has passed, but the battle is over. You sit tiredly on the ruins of the earth, holding a skull in your hand. Everything around was destroyed, leaving only ashes and ruins all over the ground. Haha, luckily I lived up to my fate. You looked at the skull in your hand and smiled. The skull seems to be twitching the corners of its mouth and showing a smile. Then a gust of wind blew by, and it turned into fly ash and disappeared from this world. You let the fly ash in your hand fly away with the wind, feeling disappointed in your heart. A generation of extremely beautiful queen just disappeared from the world. You sit for a while and then continue to go west. You are more and more eager for the truth of the world. What is the reason that causes the world to fall into darkness and such evil? You have become stronger now. Most crises, you can avoid them if you can. In the darkness, I don't know the years. In this world of endless darkness and curse, your spirit is getting worse and worse. Except for moving forward, there is almost no thought in your mind. You have forgotten even the reason for moving forward. In a trance, bursts of Sanskrit sounds flowed into your ears. Your dazed expression was slightly shaken, and memories came flooding back. You break out in a cold sweat because you are turning evil. Not only your body, but even your soul is becoming like a monster. The appearance of Sanskrit music saved you and allowed you to recover. You look up and a mountain shaped like a vulture appears in front of you. The temple on the mountain has a long ancient charm, with bells in the morning and drums in the evening, and Sanskrit sounds. The magnificent golden light illuminates the entire world, making the jade bricks on the ground glow with golden light. Every stone here, even a gust of wind, seems to contain the meaning of Buddhism, telling the grandeur of Buddhism. Yamato is boundless. On the stairs, there are countless figures worshipping up the mountain. You are surprised to find that there are not only humans and ferocious beasts inside, but even evil spirits. Everyone is walking around and worshipping, with a pious look on their face. Even the strange evil spirit has lost its evil spirit. Every time they take a step forward, the evil energy on their bodies will fade away, and the Buddha energy will expand. Is this also an illusion? You can't help but take a few steps forward and bathe in the Buddha's light. The warm Buddha's light is nourishing your body and soul that have been eroded by evil spirits. No, this is not an illusion. In other words, it is not just an illusion. You ponder for a moment, then rise into the sky and fly to the top of Lingshan Mountain. Your actions make the people and evil spirits around you glare at you. Donor, stop. Suddenly, a spiritual light flashed across the sky and stood in front of you. Donor, Lingshan Holy Land, please don't fly yet. Appearing in front of you are 4 men wearing armor, majestic and solemn. They are holding magic weapons and looking at you. You feel the huge immortal power in their bodies and nod obediently, okay. You fall into the air and start to climb up the stairs. In the beginning, you walked very quickly and looked careless. When you walk up thousands of meters of stone steps, your steps become slower and slower, and the expression on your face slowly becomes solemn. The guardians on both sides looked at you and smiled happily. Your body is slowly bending down. Like all the believers, you should pray every step of the way and worship into the Lingshan Mountain devoutly. Your knees are bending and are about to touch the jade brick. All the protectors are staring at you, their breathing gradually becoming rapid. Suddenly, you paused and whispered softly, "You want me to kneel down? Let's not talk about whether you are a real Lingshan, even if you are, so what?" Your body slowly stands up straight, like a straight green pine. "What qualifications do you have to make me kneel down?" When you said these words, the Buddha's surroundings instantly became as heavy as a mountain. Crack. That is a heavy pressure that directly affects the depths of your soul. It is irresistible and irresistible. Snort. Your face is flushed and your body is motionless. Mere pressure, nothing more. You walk slowly upward, head held high. Endless pressure surges from all directions in Lingshan, causing your body to burst into blood. However, you would rather die than kneel down. At this moment, Lingshan rumbled and shook violently. The temple is cracking, the earth is breaking, and the jade bricks have dense cracks. It's as if this spiritual mountain made you kneel down, suffering divine punishment and backlash. What happened? Around Lingshan, all the protectors kept shaking and looked panicked. "Haha, keep going." You grinned, revealing teeth full of blood. You take a fierce step forward. Boom. While your body exploded with blood, Lingshan also erupted with more violent vibrations. Big rocks are rolling down one after another, and cracks in the earth are also spreading. It's him. A protector looks at you with a look of disbelief in his eyes. They discovered you. When you move forward, Lingshan will suffer a huge shock. Impossible. What is he that can alarm Lingshan? They immediately killed the idea. Then continue. The smile on your lips is getting crazier. You take a step forward again. Boom. It seems as if the earth is trembling and the spiritual mountains are frightened. The ground is constantly jumping up and down, followed by violent swaying of temples and mountains. Not good. Many protectors flew into the sky and quickly tried to stabilize the spiritual mountain and the temple. However, at this moment, you took a step forward again. It seems that now it is not Lingshan that is putting pressure on you, but you are suppressing the entire Lingshan. Boom. The mountain collapsed directly, and the temple exploded. Even on the top of the mountain, the great thunder sound temple roared and cracks appeared. It's really him. At this time, no matter how stupid the protector is, he realizes something is wrong. He didn't do anything. Why is this happening? Everyone is shocked and puzzled. But you looked up at them, with a crazy smile on your face. Even if the meridians in your body are broken every inch, the bones in your body feel like they have been bombarded countless times with a sledgehammer. But deep down in your soul, you are extremely happy. If I dare to make you kneel down, you will have to pay the price. You raised your feet and wanted to step forward again. No, everyone exclaimed, scared to death. Half of Lingshan Mountain has been destroyed. If this step is taken, Leiyin Temple may suffer. If you don't care, you will fall hard. In an instant, your body feels light, and all the pressure disappears instantly. You didn't notice for a moment and stumbled forward a few times. Why continue? Are there no eggs? There is a hint of disdain on the corner of your mouth. Lingshan, nothing more than that. When everyone saw your arrogant look, their hearts surged with anger. However, the scene just now was too shocking, and they did not dare to take action easily. You walked up to Lingshan Mountain with ease. Leiyin Temple is magnificent and the Buddha's light is endless. There are green lotus flowers around, death and disillusionment, which contain the ultimate truth. You enter the main hall, and on both sides are the 18 arhats. There are also bodhisattvas and Buddhas guarding both sides. Can I finally see Tathagata Buddha? This thought flashed through your mind and you looked towards the top. However, one glance at it made your scalp numb and you screamed in surprise. On the high seat, there is a huge monster crawling, its body is huge and deformed. The whole body is covered with metal scales, and the scales are engraved with countless ancient runes. Its head is even more ugly, with long, narrow and scarlet pupils. In its long mouth, saliva flows like a waterfall, and its fangs are like two knives crossing the sides. The huge tongue flicked slightly, spitting out streams of fishy saliva. Its claws are sharp and thick, and a sticky unknown substance drips from its nails onto the ground. Evil spirit, you said softly, your heart shaking. Evil spirit, the monster spoke human words and said calmly, no, I am Buddha. Are you kidding? If you are Buddha, then I am the Buddha among Buddhas. You rolled your eyes. Of course, you are also a Buddha. The monster's scarlet eyes looked at you, but there was no violence in them. Haha, this is also an illusion, right? You sneered. You already have the answer in your heart, why bother asking again? The monster said calmly. You are slightly silent. This place is different from the daughter country. There is no trace of illusion at all. As if all of this is real. Since you are a Buddha, can't you see that the world has fallen into darkness? You asked with a sneer. Of course I know, that's why I am here. The monster said calmly, sooner or later, everything will be saved by my Buddha, and then the world will return to peace. Tell me, what's going on? You asked. You are too weak to know. The monster shook his head. Whether I am qualified or not is not up to you. You sneered. You will die, said the monster. Why fear death? You said righteously, I will die if I hear the truth in the morning. For the truth, I have nothing to fear. A hint of smile appeared in the monster's scarlet eyes, really. Even if the word, Tien, is removed from your name, it doesn't matter if you die. Grass. Henry Zhang's scalp was numb and he almost peed in fear. What does this monster mean? If Zhang Tianxuan removes the word, Tien, wouldn't it be who he is? This monster actually knows his true identity. This was the first time that Henry Zhang felt flustered. This was something he had never encountered before. He only has one thought now, and that is to escape. Run away quickly. You were slightly silent, I'm actually not very interested in the truth. Farewell. You turned around and left without hesitation. Wait a minute, the monster called you. Its sound seems to be a law, making you stop involuntarily. You turned around helplessly and sat on the ground. What do you want? Zhang Tianxuan, you don't need to panic. I actually don't know everything. The monster shook his head. All of this is what you said. Huh, you looked confused. You will know in the future. The monster said, but now that you are here, you can't leave. The monster opened its mouth, and a huge black hole appeared in its mouth. There is a huge suction force coming from the black hole, and your body is involuntarily thrown into it. Your figure disappeared, Lingshan returned to calm, and only the Buddha's sound filled the sky, filled the world. Simulation ends. You were born at a young age, but you changed the world of immortality. Following one's own heart has become the philosophy of Tianshui sect, and Tianshui sect has changed the entire world of immortality. Because of your changes, the world of immortality has become bright again, and the human world has become more prosperous. Your actions will continue to affect the world until the end. You discovered the mysterious dark world. This is the first time you are close to the edge of the truth of the universe. The fog of the universe is getting thicker and thicker, leaving you lost and at a loss. Simulation evaluation. Perfect level. Congratulations on getting the golden entry, don't hurt me. Buzz. Everything in the simulation fades away like a tide. Henry Jong's memory began to blur. Oops. Henry Jong suddenly remembered that he was still trapped in Kaiyuan community at this time. Henry Jong's soul was suppressed again, and his memory was sealed. He transformed back into Jong Zan, the eldest son of the Jong family in Kaiyuan town. In the room, moonlight spilled in, coating the room with a layer of pale golden light. However, Mrs. Jong seemed to be hiding in the darkness and could not see clearly. She sat there quietly, exuding a cheerful mood. It is a strange creature that was born less than 100 years ago. However, its potential is extremely huge. It calls itself the Dream Maker. Not long after he was born, he awakened to the realm. In the field, it can be called an invincible existence. As long as someone enters its territory, that person will be pulled into the dream weaved by it. The only way to escape is for the person's soul power to exceed the power of weaving dreams. Is its soul powerful? It feels very ordinary, and some B-level superpowers are more powerful than it. Then why can it control so many powerful people? Or because of its realm, it is truly weird. As long as it enters its domain, what the soul has to fight is not it, but the power of dreams in the domain. The power of this dream is a fusion of all the soul powers that exist in the realm. It is difficult for a person to defeat himself, not to mention the power of other souls. Therefore, as long as you enter its dreamland, you will never be able to turn around. Perhaps it is God's blessing that it has just begun to spread its territory and has controlled so many powerful people. Especially when the girl with the peach blossom mark on her forehead came in, her soul was trembling. It can feel that the girl has endless potential deep in her soul. It seems as vast as the ocean. If it can completely control her, it can spread its territory hundreds of miles in an instant. The whole world will enter the dreamland weaved by it. Everything will be controlled by it. Today, another young man who does not know how to live or die has entered its territory. That powerful soul shocked it all. HMPH, I don't know why your soul is so powerful, but your potential is far behind Long Xiaoyun. The dreamer didn't care about Henry Jong, but had noticed that there was a vague connection between Henry Jong and Long Xiaoyun. Therefore, it directly weaves this dream. As long as Long Xiaoyun successfully marries Henry Jong, Long Xiaoyun will surely sink forever and be completely controlled by it. Zan Zhang, you are just my tool to deal with Long Xiaoyun. A sinister and proud smile appeared on the dreamer's face. At this moment, Henry Jong returned to reality, and its domain enveloped Henry Jong again. The dream instantly invaded Henry Jong. Although the outside world has only passed for a moment, Henry Jong is different from just now. That is, he has one more entry. Do not hurt me. When the opponent causes damage to him, part of the damage will be returned to the opponent. The greater the power, the more power will be returned. Then, when Henry is under control, the other party will also be under control. The power of the soul suppressed Zhang Zan's soul, causing him to fall into an illusion for a moment. In the dark, nearly half of the soul power returned instantly, suddenly suppressing the dreamer's soul. The expression on the dreamer's face froze slightly, and his eyes showed a look of horror. What's going on? Why am I also being controlled by dreams? Oops. The power of the dream explodes, pulling the dreamer to sink into the dream quickly. Who is it? The dreamer carried this power tightly and followed it to check. Its eyes fell on the person in the other room. That person is none other than Henry Jong. It turns out, this person who I didn't care about actually has such ability. How did he do it? After all, this is a dream created by me, I will definitely wake up. The dreamer's eyes flashed with cruelty. As long as it survives this disaster, it will become stronger. As for whether anyone can escape from the dream when it sinks, it doesn't worry. In the dream, everyone has perished, and it is impossible to increase the soul power. The dreamer looked unwilling, but was still gradually pulled into the dream. Mrs. Zhang's eyes were blank for a moment, and then she regained her clarity. She looked at the moonlight and thought with a smile, Lao Zhang, our boy is finally getting married. She thought happily for a while, then went to bed. I completely forgot that I was a weirdo. At this time, Henry Jong only felt that his eyebrows were very swollen, and there was a feeling of discomfort and comfort intertwined, which made him very weird. What he doesn't know is that if his soul power is expressed in numerical values. His current soul power is 1000, and his soul power is rapidly increasing at a rate of 10 per second. This is his, "Don't hurt me," and infinite evolution, enhancing the power of his soul. In particular, the power of infinite evolution, when Henry Jong was attacked, was overwhelming. When Henry Jong fell asleep, his power of "you can become stronger by lying flat" also showed its power. Of course, as his soul strengthens, the power of dreams will lessen the pressure on him. At that time, the increase in his soul power will slow down. Early the next morning, Henry Jong woke up. He opened his eyes, and there seemed to be a flash of lightning in the room, which was the light that came out of his eyes. He sat up, looked at the shoes on the ground, and thought about putting them on. His shoes flew up with a whoosh sound and were automatically put on his feet. Henry Jong looked confused. What is going on? He stood up and wanted to go out, so he rose directly from the ground and shot toward the door. Boom! His body was like a bomb, knocking a big hole out of the door and flying out. Maid, what's going on? Henry Jong stood stunned in midair, dumbfounded. He is just a lazy young man from the Jong family, how can he still fly? Oh my God, Master! Master, why are you in the air? Many servants heard the noise from Henry Jong and came out to check. They looked at Henry Jong in midair with shock on their faces. My son, what's wrong with you? Mrs. Jong looked panicked and shouted, someone come quickly and save my son. Everyone looked confused, how to save this? Henry Jong's mind moved and he wanted to fall to the ground. His body was shot back to the ground like an arrow from the string. F*K. Henry Jong was startled and hit the door. If he hit the ground, he wouldn't be able to bear it. Under Henry Jong's thoughts, his body came to an abrupt stop 1 meter above the ground. It's interesting. Henry Jong figured out some rules. As long as he controls it with his thoughts, his body can move at will. His mind moved, and his body rose into the sky, like a bird flying freely in the sky. Chapter 91. Oh my God, could it be that the young master is a god descending to earth? Does my son have the qualifications to be a great emperor? Everyone looked at Henry Jong in amazement. There is envy and admiration in my eyes. About 10 minutes later, Henry Jong felt a stabbing pain in his head. The body shook in midair. What happened? Henry Jong was shocked and quickly fell back to the ground. He pinched his eyebrows and rubbed them for a while, then returned to normal. My son, how come you can fly? Mrs. Jong came over quickly and asked with concern. I'm not a mortal after all, so being able to fly is a normal thing, right? Henry Jong said matter-of-factly. Everyone. Mrs. Jong nodded in agreement, and she did not doubt this. Henry Jong looked at Mrs. Jong, with double images flashing in his eyes. Mrs. Jong subconsciously felt a little uneasy when she faced Henry Jong's gaze. My son, why are you looking at me like this? Haha, it's okay. Henry Jong muttered haha and got away with it. He couldn't say that when he looked at his mother, he suddenly had the urge to strangle her to death. 10 days later, at Zhongjiane Lake, Zhong Zan was lying on the boat, lazily basking in the sun. Master, today is the day when you and Miss Long are engaged. It's time for you to go. On the shore, Chen Lei shouted loudly. Okay, got it. Henry Jong nodded slightly, and the boat turned around. Unexpectedly, no one was controlling it, and it galloped towards the shore. The young master's power is getting more and more amazing. Chen Lei's eyes flashed with sighs, and he bowed his head respectfully. Henry Jong jumped out of the boat with a smile on his lips. It's really interesting. When we meet, should we call her Madam, Girl, or Sister Long? Henry Jong crossed his hands and put them behind his head, walking leisurely. However, who is the weird one who weaves the illusion? Is it me, a cheap old woman? Henry Jong was a little troubled. 5 days ago, he broke free from the power of dreams and regained his memory. During these 10 days, he also experienced 10 simulations, but he did not receive any good evaluation. He felt that as long as he killed this strange creature, he would be able to escape from the dream. However, he couldn't find where the strangeness was. Henry Jong thought Mrs. Jong was weird, but he tested her many times and it didn't look weird at all. There's no way this weirdo could be so ruthless that it even deceived itself in order to hide its identity, right? However, it doesn't matter anymore. After tonight, his soul power will be able to forcefully explode this illusion. No matter who it is, he will break it with force. Henry Zhang came to the living room and saw Long Xiaoyun, who was standing there softly and holding a handkerchief. Puff. Henry Zhang couldn't help laughing when he looked at Long Xiaoyun's current appearance. It would be great if I could take pictures now. I must take pictures of how you look now. A hint of a smirk appeared at the corner of Henry Zhang's mouth. Long Xiaoyun saw the narrow-mindedness in Henry Zhang's eyes, and his face couldn't help but blush. Why do you look at me like this? Long Xiaoyun summoned up the courage and asked. I told you, handkerchiefs are not for you. Swords are for you. Henry Zhang smiled slightly. Do you think of me as a vulgar martial artist? Long Xiaoyun had tears in his eyes, feeling a little aggrieved. Haha, is a warrior who wields swords and guns? In ancient times, there were Hua Mulan and Mu Guiying. How carefree and unrestrained were they? Henry Zhang laughed. Besides, what's wrong with Wu Fu? He clenched his fist and waved it fiercely. If we don't have strong power, we will be trapped here forever. Everyone looked confused. What on earth is this young man talking about? Why has it become more and more strange since I could fly? Come, let me teach you some sword skills. Henry Zhang suddenly stepped forward, took Long Xiaoyun's hand directly, and walked towards the yard. He threw a sword to Long Xiaoyun, smiled and said, watch it well and study hard. Henry Zhang randomly redeemed a sword technique from the system. His entry, the realm of enlightenment, was activated, and he became familiar with this swordsmanship almost instantly. He waved a few times casually, and he was equivalent to a strong swordsman. Henry Zhang began to perform sword skills in the courtyard. The sword skills are fluttering, and the fallen leaves dance with the sword energy. Sword energy filled the courtyard, and people felt a sharp energy stimulating their hearts. Long Xiaoyun held the hilt of the sword, his grip became tighter and tighter, and his eyes became brighter and brighter. In the center of her eyebrows, the peach blossom mark also shone with luster, extremely mysterious. What are you waiting for? Come on. Henry Zhang swung his sword, and a sword energy appeared and shot in the direction of Long Xiaoyun. Oh my god! Everyone exclaimed. Wouldn't Long Xiaoyun's fragile body be smashed to pieces by such a powerful sword energy? However, Long Xiaoyun's weak temperament suddenly disappeared, and a sharp edge appeared in her body. She whistled softly, well done. She held a sword flower in her hand and shot it out. Dozens of peach blossom sword energy appeared in midair and directly hit the incoming sword energy. Boom! The sword energy collided, causing deep marks to appear in the yard. Ha ha! Henry Zhang smiled cheerfully, leapt up, and fought with Long Xiaoyun. Long Xiaoyun was in a very embarrassed state at the beginning, and even a lot of his clothes were wiped away by the sword energy. However, as the number of rounds of the fight increased, Long Xiaoyun gradually stabilized his figure. As if it was muscle memory, she also displayed a set of sword skills. The swordsmanship is fierce, even sharper than Zhang Zan's sword intent. It is an indomitable idea of death and no life. The two figures intertwined, accompanied by the low hum of metal, and the courtyard also reflected the beautiful scenery of Madara with light and shadow. This beautiful and murderous duel between swordsmen made everyone extremely fascinated. Only Mrs. Zhang stood there with a restless look on her face. She always felt that things were very bad now, as if something bad was going to happen. Click! The two swords suddenly collided together in the afterimages. The sword trembled, as if it would break in the next moment. A smile appeared on Henry Zhang's lips. I'm worried. The power of his soul directly protected the sword without exploding. Instead, Long Xiaoyun's sword exploded into pieces under the strong earthquake. Ah! Long Xiaoyun exclaimed and was stunned. Look at the sword. However, Henry Zhang did not hesitate and slashed directly at Long Xiaoyun's head with his sword. That posture was clearly going to kill her. No! Everyone woke up and screamed in surprise. Kill her! Madame Zhang's eyes flashed with malice. She inexplicably wanted Long Xiaoyun to die. I'm dying. Long Xiaoyun looked confused. Idiot, you don't have a sword in your hand, do you have that knife? Henry Zhang roared, and the power of his soul exploded, blasting directly into Long Xiaoyun's mind. Boom. Long Xiaoyun's soul seemed to have a giant in her mind, holding a giant axe and striking it down hard. In her world, the first ray of light appeared. Suddenly, a huge stone appeared deep in her soul. That was a memory she would never forget until her death. Then, a lazy young man with a bad smile on his face appeared in her soul. In an instant, all memories began to revive. Before she had time to understand her current situation, she sensed that a strong crisis was imminent. Almost instinctively, Long Xiaoyun stretched out his hand and a long sword appeared instantly, knocking away the sword that Henry Zhang had picked up. Zhan Zhang, you've grown up, haven't you? Do you dare to fight me? Long Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows coldly, and his heroic eyes were filled with murderous intent. Henry Zhang threw the sword aside with a smile and said with a smile, "Congratulations to Sister Long for recovering her memory." Restore memory. Long Xiaoyun was slightly startled, and suddenly remembered the situation at this time. I was pulled into a fantasy by strangeness. I almost became your wife. The more Long Xiaoyun thought about it, the more shy he became, and the murderous aura in his body became stronger. She looked at the people around her and felt the urge to silence them all. Restore memory. Mrs. Zhang stared blankly, feeling that her mind suddenly exploded. It was stimulated by Long Xiaoyun's memory recovery, and it also recovered its memory at the same time. I am the dreamer, and I am trapped by the dream I created. Mrs. Zhang broke out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, we were able to make it in time. Pull them into dreamland again. Henry Zhang's expression changed and he looked at Mrs. Zhang. Mrs. Zhang stood there quietly, exuding extremely evil and mysterious fluctuations. Her face was gloomy, and she looked at him sinisterly, with resentment in her eyes. If it weren't for you, how could I be trapped in the dream? How could I let Long Xiaoyun recover his memory? However, when she saw Henry Zhang looking over, her expression changed and returned to a very kind look. Is it really you? Henry Zhang muttered, and then looked at Mrs. Zhang with respect. Mrs. Zhang's face darkened and she said coldly, "Stop pretending, you've discovered me, haven't you? Isn't it good to keep pretending? It's a bit difficult to fall out now." Henry Zhang curled his lips and had a headache. Did you drag me into a fantasy world and ask me to marry this brat Henry Zhang? Long Xiaoyun looked at Mrs. Zhang hatefully, holding a tang sword in his hand, and slashed Washan with all his strength. HMPH, in the dream I weaved, you dare to fight me. Mrs. Zhang smiled coldly, and the leading crutch in her hand just tapped the ground lightly. Boom! The ground suddenly surged, and a 10-foot-long earth dragon rose from the ground and bit Long Xiaoyun fiercely from below. Long Xiaoyun was shocked, changed his moves, and let Tang Dao strike at Tulong's head. Boom! The sword energy was everywhere and the earth exploded. The powerful power fluctuates like ripples, spreading in all directions. Long Xiaoyun's body shook and he was thrown into the sky. Snort! Mrs. Zhang had a sneer on her face, and a transparent air dragon appeared in the sky, slamming into Long Xiaoyun who was unable to dodge. Puff! Long Xiaoyun's body shook violently and hit the ground hard again. Long Xiaoyun coughed up a large mouthful of blood, and many bones in his body were broken. If this kind of injury is not treated in time, I am afraid that I will die. However, the peach blossom marks between Long Xiaoyun's eyebrows flickered, making her face turn rosy. The injuries on his body were repaired almost in the blink of an eye. Grandma, this recovery speed is much faster than mine. Henry Zhang looked a little jealous. Vulnerable. Mrs. Zhang sneered and ignored Long Xiaoyun. She looked at Henry Zhang, with a solemn and fearful expression on her face. How on earth did you regain your memory? It's very simple, as long as my soul power is strong enough. You should know best, right? Henry Zhang's eyes were shining and he said lightly. Impossible, unless your soul power has grown to a soul power that exceeds the sum of all people in these 10 days. Mrs. Zhang denied it. Is it possible? You'll know if you try it, right? Henry Zhang and Mrs. Zhang looked at each other, and their soul power pierced through like a sharp sword. Fury flashed across Mrs. Zhang's face. In her dream, she dared to use her soul power to deal with it. Moreover, your use of soul power is too rough. It exuded mysterious fluctuations, and a force also surged out, hitting Henry Zhang's soul power. This is not the pure power of the soul, but the power of dreams that incorporates the power of the soul. Boom! An invisible wave appeared and spread to the entire dream world instantly. Boom! The world instantly became gloomy, and even huge cracks appeared in the sky. The earth was shaken, as if a huge earthquake of magnitude 18 had occurred. All the humans in the dream world only felt that they were hit hard on the head, and they fainted completely. Only Long Xiaoyun's eyebrows had a peach blossom mark shining, protecting her soul. Henry Zhang snorted and couldn't help but take 3 steps back. Blood overflowed from the facial features, and the soul was in severe pain like tearing apart. He suffered heavy losses in this round. Don't overestimate your capabilities. The blows from Dream Maker and Henry Zhang were equally uncomfortable, but they still endured it. However, at the moment when she was proud, a mysterious power came in an instant. Again, the dreamer's eyes widened and he quickly used the power of dreams to build a defense. Boom! The two forces collided with each other, causing the dreamer to scream. It only feels like its body is being crushed and its soul is being torn apart. It collapsed on the ground, unable to maintain its human form anymore, and turned into its original appearance. This is a huge worm with a length of more than 10 meters and a milky white body. It raised its body and opened its huge mouth, which was densely packed with tens of thousands of sharp teeth. A pair of whirlpool eyes stared at Henry Zhang, with resentment and fear in his eyes. Henry Zhang's soul power is indeed very powerful, even surpassing the power of dreams it uses. However, his use of soul power is far inferior to it, so he is not its opponent at all. But why? When you fight him, you will be attacked inexplicably. Moreover, that kind of attack clearly comes from it. Could it be that you also have powers similar to my domain? Dream Maker Helix's eyes flickered slightly. As long as I launch an attack on you, the attack will be reflected back to some of the damage. Awesome, bro. Henry Zhang applauded and said with admiration, if you weren't weird, I would have wanted to have a drink with you. However, you are so ugly and have so many teeth. If I drink with you, I'm afraid I'll be too disgusted to drink. Henry Zhang touched his chin and thought seriously, do I want to drink with you? Who wants to drink with you? The dreamer roared. The whole world is collapsing in its direction. Except for Henry Zhang and Long Xiaoyun, all humans and even all materials turned into flowing light and merged into the body of the dreamer. The dreamer roared in pain, seemingly unable to withstand such a huge force. When the dreamer knew that Henry Zhang could rebound the damage, he made an instant decision. That is one blow that determines victory or defeat. Otherwise, if you keep fighting, it will definitely be the loser in the end. Because, it discovered that Henry, this fool, in addition to having the terrible ability to rebound, his soul power was actually getting stronger. Moreover, he has a very abnormal recovery speed. Just now, he was pale and looked like he was about to die. After just a while, his complexion recovered a lot. Are you weird, or am I weird? The dreamer wanted to cry. Long Xiaoyun's peach blossom imprint was very extraordinary, so it was not surprising that he recovered quickly and even recovered his memory. But no matter how you look at this Henry Zhang, he is so ordinary. Why is he so much more troublesome than Long Xiaoyun? Even, in order to deal with him, it had to give up the dream it had weaved for hundreds of years. Turn dreams into power and kill Henry Zhang instantly. Of course, it didn't dare to use all its strength, and had to use half of its strength to protect itself. Otherwise, the counterattack of the rebound force will also kill it. Half of the power is enough to kill Henry Zhang. Roar! The dreamer raised his head and roared, his body expanded more and more, pustules appeared on his body, and everything around him became distorted. Is this going to be a desperate effort? Henry Zhang's heart sank. His body flashed and appeared in front of Long Xiaoyun. Henry Zhang said in a low voice, Sister Long, do you still remember the last time our souls fused? Help me. Soul fusion. Long Xiaoyun's face suddenly turned red as he remembered his last experience. The last time she merged with Henry Zhang, she couldn't forget the ecstatic feeling. He even had murderous intentions towards Henry Zhang and wanted to commit suicide. Now, Henry Zhang wants to do it again. Don't even think about it. Long Xiaoyun flatly refused. In the past, it's just that she didn't recover the memory of her previous life. Now, it is impossible for her to betray her master again. If you don't help me, we will all die. Henry Zhang frowned. Just die, I have long wanted to die with you. Long Xiaoyun said coldly. Tisk. Henry Zhong's eyes changed. He looked at Long Xiaoyun coldly, and said without any doubt. Now, fuse. This is an order. Long Xiaoyun's heart trembled. Zhang Zan's unquestionable eyes made her see the master. Owner. Long Xiaoyun murmured. It belongs to your uncle. Henry Zhong said speechlessly. You are not Pantao, and I am not Shizan. Hurry up and merge, otherwise it will be too late. Henry Zhong became more and more anxious as he saw that the world had almost completely collapsed into the body of the white worm. What should I do? Long Xiaoyun asked subconsciously. We are all soul bodies now. Henry Zhong said quickly. You just need to come here. Long Xiaoyun was so confused that he obeyed Henry Zhong's order almost instinctively. Her body turned into a ray of light and entered Henry Zhong's body. Well, the two souls merged together, and they couldn't help but tremble slightly. That special feeling came again. Long Xiaoyun's head was a mess. What had she done? Henry Zhong endured the strangeness in his body and felt the powerful power after the soul fusion. Henry Zhong exhaled. This is a duel of pure soul power. Henry Zhong's realm of enlightenment was activated, and he suddenly gained a lot more insights into the use of the soul. His body glowed with milky white light, which was the power of his soul. Then, his body suddenly swelled. His feet stepped on the earth, and his body grew long in the wind. 5 feet, 10 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet. Is this the limit of my soul now? Henry Zhong looked across, and the worm, which was as huge as a mountain, became not so big in his eyes. It's just a slightly larger insect. Has his use of soul power reached this level in such a short period of time? The dreamer is filled with jealousy and fear. This change in emotion makes it stronger. Kill. The pupils of the two looked at each other, and they both burst out with infinite killing intent. It was as if two stars suddenly collided together. This is a collision of souls, more dangerous than a physical battle. The collision between the two caused the surrounding space to rapidly distort. Their bodies seemed to exist in phantoms, becoming very unreal. Roar. The worm opened its mouth, and colorful light erupted from its mouth. That was the power of its dream. Henry Zhong only felt sleepy, as if a tired old man had not rested for 10 days. His body became weak and he couldn't open his eyelids. Wake up. Henry Zhong bit his tongue and spit out blood. Die. He raised his huge fist and slammed it into the worm's mouth. Boom. Colorful and milky white light suddenly erupted, causing the world to fall into a dream. Crack. Henry Zhong's arm was torn off directly by the worm's tens of thousands of sharp teeth. The worm's swirling eyes showed excitement. However, the next moment, a look of incomparable fear suddenly appeared in its pupils. The battle just now made it go crazy. It accidentally used all its strength. Now, the counterattack force suddenly struck. That terrifying power suddenly exploded within its body. Henry Zhong's eyes flashed, his figure shrank slightly, and he flew directly into the worm's body. Open it for me. A giant axe transformed into Henry Zhong's hand. It was like the creation of the world, struck down with an axe. Click. The world seemed to be still for a moment, and then exploded, and the endless energy suddenly dispersed like a broken balloon. Roar. The creator let out a final desperate roar and disappeared into nothingness. Henry Zhong was knocked out by the violent energy and lost consciousness in midair. At this time, in the outside world, there are many people with special abilities who are paying attention to Kaiyuan community. There are also powerful troops stationed here, closely monitoring the place. Because Kaiyuan community has been expanding, if it continues, Kangcheng may have no choice but to relocate. At this moment, with everyone's shocked eyes, a violent earthquake occurred in Kaiyuan community. Violent power fluctuations erupted, distorting the space within a kilometer. Retreat. The biggest officer's expression changed drastically and he issued an order. Last time, an army was suddenly swept in. Could it be that Kaiyuan community is about to expand again? Everyone retreated thousands of meters away. Just then, there was a thunderbolt in the sky. I saw a huge crack appearing in the sky above Kaiyuan community. Then, a giant milky white axe suddenly slashed out, slashing through the sky and across Kaiyuan community. Boom. It was as if an invisible barrier was shattered, turning into colorful powder and dispersing in the void. At the same time, everyone heard the desperate roar. This roar, even if it is thousands of meters away, the people present are all soldiers, with extremely firm will. They couldn't help but kneel on the ground, their minds seemed to have been stirred several times. Fortunately, the roar quickly disappeared, and everyone looked in the direction of Kaiyuan community with lingering fear. Everyone was suddenly stunned because Kaiyuan community disappeared and turned into ruins. Go and save people. The commander reacted quickly and ran over with his troops. I don't know how long it took before Henry Zhang woke up. He slowly sat up and subconsciously grabbed his right arm. Fortunately, it's still there. Yes, it is a soul after all, not a real body. Henry Zhang rubbed his forehead, his head still hurt. His consumption this time was too great. You're awake. A cold voice sounded next to him. Henry Zhang was startled and found that Long Xiaoyun was sitting on the chair next to the bed. She also held a dagger and turned it around in her hand. Henry Zhang felt guilty for a while. You don't want to stab me with this dagger, do you? If you hadn't woken up yet, I might have taken action. Long Xiaoyun looked at Henry Zhang with burning eyes. What is your relationship with the Lord, and she's on? Could it be that you are his reincarnation? Long Xiaoyun's heart flashed with sadness. Is the invincible Shizan dead? Reincarnated body. It shouldn't be counted. Henry Zhang shook his head, spread his hands and said, you don't have to ask, you can't explain clearly even if you ask me. My situation is a little more complicated than the relationship between you and Pantao. Yeah, Long Xiaoyun pondered silently. What's the situation now? Henry Zhang changed the topic and asked, is everyone okay? Long Xiaoyun shook his head and said lightly, except for the two of us, only Chen Lei and Zhao Hao's souls were strong and survived. The souls of the others simply couldn't survive the final battle. So, do I kill them? Henry Zhang laughed at himself. I went to save people, but I didn't expect to end their lives with my own hands. Long Xiao Cloud Shinobi couldn't help but say, that's not the case. Even if the soul is fine, others will not survive. Henry Zhang was slightly startled. Long Xiaoyun reminded, don't forget, everyone has not eaten for at least 10 days. Henry Zhang suddenly realized that the dreamer only needs the soul, and as for everyone's physical body, it will naturally not care. After such a long time, I'm afraid everyone's physical body has died long ago. Master, you are awake. Shen Ziyi walked in with a hot water basin and looked at Henry Zhang in surprise. Henry Zhang smiled and nodded to her. You've been in a coma for a week. Sister Long is worried to death. Shen Ziyi soaked the towel and wiped Henry Zhang's face and hands naturally. Long Xiaoyun snorted coldly, I'm not worried about him. I'm just afraid that if he dies, humanity will lose another powerful fighter. Shen Ziyi pursed her lips and smiled, and said softly, Zhan Zhang, the weirdness is getting stronger and stronger now. Several small countries abroad have disappeared and become weird paradises. Henry Zhang's eyes darkened and he said in a deep voice, where is Zhao Hao? Zhao Hao has returned to the capital. Long Xiaoyun said, I heard that something happened at the General Administration of Supernatural Powers. Henry Zhang curled his lips. What else could happen? It must be Lin Chenjiang being deposed. We are also going to the capital. Henry Zhang stood up, his figure swaying a little. How about you rest for a few days first? Shen Ziyi quickly supported Henry Zhang. It doesn't matter, if we delay for one more day, too many people will die. Henry Zhang shook his head, his attitude was very determined. The three of them got on the special plane and entered the capital directly. Humph, we meet again. Hu Song looked at Henry Zhang with very complicated eyes. It is you. Henry Zhang smiled, this person was the sergeant that day. Come with me, someone wants to see you. Hu Song turned around and led the way expressionlessly. Henry Zhang followed Hu Song into a room. Henry Zhang's soul power has become so strong that he can even scan the surroundings with his soul. He found no one else in the apartment except the sergeant and the man in the room. It's him. Henry Zhang's soul looked at the kind old man in front of him, with a look of shock on his face. The old man frowned slightly and looked into the void. Did you actually notice my soul? Henry Zhang took back the power of his soul. If he wanted to be hidden, he might not even be able to be discovered by S-level superpowers. The old man is obviously just an ordinary person, but he can actually sense his own soul. You go in. Hu Song stopped the two women and only let Henry Zhang go in by himself. After Henry Zhang entered, the old man hurriedly greeted him. Henry Zhang was slightly startled and quickly shook hands with him. Zhan Zhang, I finally see you. He grabbed Henry Zhang's hand, full of strength. Henry Zhang smiled and said, I didn't expect you to be here, and you haven't arranged bodyguards yet. Arrange bodyguards. The old man also laughed. With Henry here, this will be the safest place in the world. Why should I arrange bodyguards? Henry Zhang said jokingly, 10 days ago, I was chased by fighter jets. Aren't you afraid that I am a bad guy? The old man looked serious and suddenly bowed to Henry Zhang. We are very sorry about what happened this time. What are you doing? Henry Zhang quickly helped the old man up. The old man said with shame, we didn't do our job well. We were deceived by Lin Chenjiang, and that's why you were wronged. He looked at Henry Zhang with great relief and kindness in his eyes. Good boy, you didn't hurt those children, I thank you. Henry Zhang touched his nose, and the anger that had accumulated over the past few days dissipated. Do you know that Lin Chenjiang is a traitor? Henry Zhang asked. Certainly. The old man's eyes darkened, and there was a sense of majesty on his body. I have already found someone to interrogate him. He betrayed humanity and took refuge in Weird. I don't understand, as a human being, why does he seek refuge in Weird? Henry Zhang asked with a frown. There was a sneer on the old man's face. What else could it be? Naturally stronger power and eternal life. Eternal life. That's right, many weirdos have intelligence no less than human beings. The old man said solemnly, they will confuse humans and grant them eternal life. Eternal life is such a temptation, naturally some people will betray it. The old man sneered, his eyes full of disdain. Material is immortal, but it's just shattered. If you live like a rat crossing the street, what's the point of eternal life? The old man paused, his eyes flashed slightly. Zhan Zhang, if Wei finds you and says he will grant you eternal life, what will you do? Me. Henry Zhang was startled. Right. The old man looked calm, but his breathing became slightly rapid. If Henry Zhang can't resist the temptation, judging from the information he has obtained, I'm afraid there is really no hope for mankind. I can. Henry Zhang fiercely clenched his fist and said calmly, just crush it and explode it. The old man's eyes lit up. Don't you want to live forever? Hee hee. Henry Zhang smiled, his expression full of disdain. Is it difficult to live forever? What kind of gift is needed to break the mystery? What do they count, and do they deserve it? He is covered in golden words. As long as he doesn't seek death, isn't eternal life as simple as eating and drinking? Chief, I'm not here to talk about this. Henry Zhang's expression became serious and he started talking about business. I guess the conspiracy control technique has been destroyed by Lin Chenjiang, right? Yes, he destroyed it. The old man nodded. Fortunately, this kind of stuff is all in my head. Henry Zhang took out another paper book. The old man's hands trembled slightly, as if welcoming an extremely sacred treasure. It is indeed a treasure and can at least save thousands of lives. Zhan Zhang, you are a blessing to mankind all over the world. Like a star, you will light up the path of mankind in the future. The old man said with emotion. A leader personally came to promote the conspiracy control technique, and almost overnight, the conception control technique was spread to all the people in China. Naturally, not everyone can do it if they want to become a trickster. In this secret book, there is a very complicated secret technique. If you practice according to the secret technique every day and can feel a burst of qi, you are qualified to become a trickster. In Zhang Daoling's time, the probability of becoming a trickster was about 1 in 10. Nowadays, it should be similar. As long as you master qi, you can suppress the strangeness and control it with unique secret techniques. Of course, there is a chance of failure. Therefore, it is best to awaken under the protection of a strong person and become a master of tricks. Li Daming is an ordinary office worker, some are old and some are young. Life was a bit difficult, but with his serious hard work, it got better day by day. But these abundant days were soon broken, because something strange happened. Only then did Li Daming realize that there was something strange in the world. It was just that there were very few of them before, so they were not exposed to the world. But now the frequent occurrence of strange events has seriously affected everyone's lives. The lives of Li Daming and his family are always under strange threats. Especially some of his business partners and even neighbors suddenly disappeared. I heard that he encountered something strange and died tragically. Some were so miserable that their whole families were directly wiped out. Li Daming lives in fear all day long. He is afraid of death, but he is even more afraid of the death of his family. This inability to protect his family made him want to go crazy. Until the appearance of Yu Yushu, Li Daming seemed to have grasped the life-saving straw. He quit his job and enrolled in a government-run training class for cultivation training. On this day, Li Daming practiced till very late before going home in a happy mood. Because he finally cultivated qi. This means that he has the opportunity to become a trickster. Li Daming is planning to apply to the superiors in these 2 days to become a trickster. Because the government has a lot of strange people in custody, Li Daming can apply for a strange creature and control it by paying a certain price. Moreover, there will be a senior trickster or a supernatural guardian nearby, making it very safe. Li Daming hummed a little tune, got in the car, and rushed home. He hasn't told his family the good news yet, he wants to give them a surprise. Li Daming's car passed through an alley. After passing through this alley and turning another corner, you can reach home. The alley is not long and can be crossed in about a minute. However, while Li Daming was driving, his expression suddenly became a little ugly. Because he has been driving in this alley for 5 minutes. He turned on the high beam and illuminated the road ahead. The alley is extremely deep and dark. The bright light shines in, but the end cannot be seen. This is impossible. Li Daming broke out in cold sweat on his forehead, turned around decisively, and turned back to gallop. Another 5 minutes passed, but he did not walk out of this alley. I encountered something strange. Li Daming's face turned pale, showing despair. Suddenly, a shadow of about 1 meter appeared in front of the car. Li Daming subconsciously wanted to apply the brakes, but he quickly realized it. This shadow is definitely not human. Li Daming looked hard. Instead of pressing the brakes, he hit the accelerator and crashed into the car. However, the shadow just raised a hand and the car stopped instantly. Shadow walked to Li Daming's car door and knocked lightly. A cold voice came in. I have something to ask you. Can you get off the car? Only a trickster can get off the bus. Li Daming gasped for air, his heart beating rapidly. If you don't get out of the car, it's hard for me to ask you. The shadow reached out and pulled Li Daming's car door down, throwing it 10 meters away. Li Daming felt cold in his heart. What a terrifying power this was. He had no room to resist. At this moment, Li Daming saw the shadow's appearance clearly. This is not a human at all, but a strange weasel. It is like a human being standing upright. Those deep eyes were full of vicious malice, which made Li Daming feel cold all over. Can I get off the car now? Weird and faint question. Li Daming knew that if he didn't get out of the car, he would die. He got out of the car and stood in front of Weird. Hunter, let me ask you a question. Weasel Weird was very polite, but his tone was unquestionable. Excuse me. Li Daming nodded, he could only adapt to circumstances. Look, do I look like a god or a human being? The weasel looked at Li Daming with strange expectancy. It's broken. It's Wangpizzi who wants to be sealed. Li Daming's heart sank. He had learned many strange stories recently. Huang Pizzi's request for a seal is a very common weird thing. It is so dangerous that ordinary people will never survive. No matter how you answer, there is one end, and that is to be eaten by Wangpizzi. I'm dying. Li Daming felt dizzy. Tell me, what do I look like? Huang Pizzi became impatient with waiting and showed his sharp fangs. The black air emanating from it became more and more intense, freezing the ground within a 10-meter radius. No, I can't die. What will happen to my family if I die? The figure of Henry Zhang appeared in Li Daming's mind. This is his most idolized idol. Zhang Zan broke through Taohua village, saw through Lin Chenjiang's conspiracy, rescued Kangcheng, and most importantly, he selflessly spread the art of cunning. These deeds, thanks to the publicity above, are almost unknown to everyone. If it were Henry Zhang, he would never give up. Li Daming's eyes burned with fire. He heard that Henry Zhang was just an ordinary office worker at the beginning. He is not as powerful as Henry Zhang, but Huang Pizzi is not as powerful as the weird ones that Henry Zhang encountered. I can't embarrass my idol. Li Daming calmed down and looked at Huang Pizi indifferently, with a trace of ridicule on his lips. What do you mean? Do you want to die? Huang Pizi was furious, and his black energy was approaching Li Daming. This vicious breath made Li Daming unable to breathe, and even his blood seemed to freeze. Li Daming said coldly, "Do you know what a human is? What is a human being?" Huang Pizi was stunned for a moment. "Don't you understand?" Li Daming opened his hands and showed a wild smile. "Since you don't know what a human is, why don't you come into my body and find out? Do you know what will happen to you after you are corrupted by me?" Huang Pizi said gloomily, "You will be destroyed both physically and mentally, and will never be reincarnated." "It doesn't matter, it's just a life." Li Daming said calmly, "I just want you to know what you are." Could this be a lunatic? Huang Pizi was hesitant. Li Daming's lips showed sarcasm at the right time. "Don't you dare. You coax me." Huang Pizi showed his ferocious look and turned into a stream of light that rushed into Li Daming's body. "Okay, it's coming in." Li Daming's eyes flashed, and all the blood in his body surged. This was excitement. The art of control. That's right, he brought weirdness into his body just to control Huang Pizi alone. Under Li Daming's spell, the qi in his body moved in a unique form. Then it sealed the yellow skin in his body. Huang Pizi noticed something was wrong and began to resist. However, that energy is obviously very weak, but it is extremely tenacious. It's so hard to break free. Huang Pizi went crazy and completely went berserk. Vomit. Li Daming vomited out large mouthfuls of blood. His body was in pieces and he could no longer hold on. As expected, is it still not possible? Li Daming's eyes showed unwillingness. "Zhanjiang, I let you down." Li Daming's eyes dimmed. In the capital, Henry Zhang was suddenly startled slightly. He seemed to feel a very weak thought. "What's this?" Henry Zhang's expression changed, and he suddenly remembered the time during Zhang Daoling's period. "Is it the people who are pronouncing my name?" Henry Zhang sighed slightly. He must have encountered trouble, or even something strange. It's a pity that he doesn't have Zhang Daoling's ability now and can't help this man. However, in the endless void, a bright light flickered slightly. Boom! Li Daming felt a force pouring into his body, and his qi skyrocketed. Li Daming didn't have time to think, so he directly used the secret method and started to suppress Huang Pizi with powerful qi. Countless mysterious lines were instantly imprinted on Huang Pizi's body, making his body covered with golden curse marks. "What's wrong with me?" Huang Pizi panicked and wanted to escape from Li Daming's body. Unexpectedly, Li Daming did not stop it and allowed it to come out of the body. "Mortal, go to hell." Huang Pizi showed his fierce look and opened his big mouth full of sharp teeth, intending to eat Li Daming. "Shut up." Li Daming scolded him coldly. Click. Huang Pizi shut his mouth obediently. Its eyes were extremely frightened and full of fear. Is this what a trickster is like? Li Daming knew that he had successfully controlled Huang Pizi, but it was a bit different from the book. The book describes that humans and weirdness maintain a delicate balance. Although people are in the dominant position, apart from not being able to hurt people, weird can even forcibly disobey some orders. However, Li Daming felt that Huang Pizi's life and death depended on his thoughts. Did Henry Zhang help me? Li Daming's mind moved. He was not just guessing out of thin air. Because, in his mind, a golden figure faintly appeared. That shadow clearly looked like Henry Zhang. "Kneel down." Li Daming scolded and looked at Huang Pizi kneeling in front of him. "You want to know if you are a human or a god?" Li Daming said calmly, "You are a weird thing, worse than a beast, do you understand?" "You." Huang Pizi was humiliated, but he could only obey all Li Daming's orders. Henry Zhang looked into the void, with a smile on his lips. "It turns out that you are still here. Li Daming is just an ordinary human being on the land of China. What happened to him also happened to different people. There are even people with strong talents who can control B-level weirdness. Huang Pizi is very strong, but he is only C-level. Of course, not everyone can succeed, and many people fail and lose their lives. However, according to official surveys, the probability of success for ordinary people has become greater and greater. It seems that becoming a trickster is not particularly difficult. Moreover, many people say that as long as they have faith in Henry Zhang, they will succeed. For a time, many people began to worship Henry Zhong's portrait at home. As more and more uncanny masters appear in China, people finally have the strength to resist in the face of the uncanny. In just 1 month, fewer and fewer humans died on the land of China day by day. This change is naturally seen by all countries around the world. They were jealous and crazy. When the art of control was spreading, almost all parts of the world had acquired this secret art. However, what makes all countries collapse is that none of them can cultivate the so-called qi. Only the local Chinese can practice qi. However, even if these Chinese master qi, it would be difficult for them to successfully control the strangeness. Only a small number of people can successfully control the weirdness. Think tanks from various countries have analyzed it and found that those who are successful are those who have a sense of belonging to China. China, they left a secret door in the secret. Only Chinese people can practice the art of control. This is unfair, we have to protest. Many countries shared the same hatred and protested against the Chinese government. What's more, some countries still want China to hand over Henry Zhong. Hey, the idea hit me. There was a sick smile on Henry Zhong's face. Wouldn't that be fun? Before Henry Zhong could react, countries around the world contacted China, wanting to communicate with people with superpowers. In order to take care of China, the location was also located in the capital. Nowadays, weird things are rampant, and all countries are in dire straits. Some weak countries have even been destroyed. During this period, it is a good excuse to communicate with people with superpowers. However, everyone knows that this is just an excuse. The purpose of all countries is to control trickery and Zhong. The chief personally called Henry Zhong. Zhong, will you participate in this conference? If you don't want to participate, that's okay. Participate, why not participate? Henry Zhong said with a smile, I've been worried these days, so I might as well take some time to relax. Worried, the chief looked serious and said, Zhong, your matter is the most important matter of the country. No matter what happens, you can get the support of the country. Henry Zhong felt warm in his heart. Don't worry, I won't refuse to speak if necessary. Okay, let's attend the conference in a few days. The chief nodded and hung up the phone. The chief frowned, feeling a little worried. What he said was completely true. It is not an exaggeration to say that Henry Zhong is the most important person in China. As long as those who control the mystery devoutly believe in Henry Zhong, they can successfully control strange things. Why doesn't he know? The chief does not know the reasons for this, let alone the impact on the future. However, the most important thing is that the people can survive. Therefore, he must solve the things that worry Henry. As long as it is not treason, even if it means harming innocent people, he can only. If Henry Zhong knew what the chief was thinking, he might not know whether to cry or laugh. He was worried not because of anything else, but because of things in the simulation. It's been 20 days, and he hasn't gotten a good simulation. Most of them did not get good entries at the beginning and their qualifications were very mediocre. What depressed him the most was that once he got an entry for Son of Space. As long as he continues to practice, his body can blend into space and even appear anywhere in the world. Moreover, it can also use the power of space to attack, which is a very domineering golden entry. However, Henry Zhong did not wait long to be happy. When he was 3 years old, a group of bandits broke into the village. The whole village, including him, died at the hands of the gangsters. It can be said that this is the most unwilling time for Henry Zhong. Maid, it's okay if you are really here to communicate. Henry Zhong sneered, if I'm here to cause trouble, I'll just take it out on you. The exchange meeting began soon. Henry Zhong, Shen Zi, and Long Xiaoyun were all picked up by a special plane and entered the venue. The venue was already packed with seats. There are more than 300 teams from all major countries and major supernatural organizations. It can be said to be the most grand event in history. Moreover, there are hundreds of top figures from national and supernatural organizations. Even countries and organizations where the number 1 person could not come have sent their number 2 person. Even some countries and organizations that were not invited by China came to participate with shame. China, the land of etiquette. Now that he is here, there is no reason to turn him away. Of course, these people can only stay in the side hall and observe. When Henry Zhong came in, everyone was changing glasses and chatting lively. It seems that this is really a very serious exchange conference. However, Henry Jong just entered the hall. The hall with a radius of tens of thousands of meters fell silent for an instant. Even the quiet drop of a needle can be clearly heard. Everyone looked at Henry Jong with their eyes wide open. It seems that everyone wants to see with their own eyes who this man who created the art of control is. Henry Jong looked calm, took the two women, and sat down next to the chief with a sword and a golden horse. Zhao Hao smiled bitterly and made way for Henry Jong, with a bit of respect on his face. He is now the director, but don't forget that the last director was killed by Henry Jong himself. Moreover, Henry Jong even saved his life. Henry Jong looked around, with a smile on his lips. Are you shocked by my handsome appearance? What are you looking at? Let's continue with the meeting. Is this Mr. Henry Jong? A middle-aged man holding a scepter, wearing a cross necklace, a scarlet ring, and a dark red robe walked up. He is Angeli, the archbishop with the highest status in the Pope of Light. Second only to the Pope. Shen Zi glanced at him and whispered in Henry Jong's ear. Oh, Henry Jong raised his eyebrows. In addition to China's superpower bureau, each major country naturally has its own superpower organization. There are several supernatural organizations that are on par with China's supernatural bureau, and are even more powerful. Among them, the most powerful is the Pope of Light. This sect is not a national organization. Rather, it is a joint product of the entire Western countries and is said to have existed in the world for thousands of years. The papal status of the Pope of Light is even higher than that of the head of the bald eagle United States. The appointment of the head of almost all Western countries must be approved by the Pope before he can become the head. This shows how terrifying the power of the Pope of Light is. They actually sent Angeli out, which shows that they attach great importance to this conference, or to Henry Jong. It's me. I've met His Excellency the Archbishop. Henry Jong spoke very politely, but his body remained motionless. Zan Jong, you are so rude. A man jumped out and said angrily. His Excellency the Archbishop personally greets you, but you still dare to sit down. Oh, what should I do? Henry Jong asked curiously. Of course I will kneel down in front of His Excellency the Archbishop and kiss his insteps. The man looked pious and spoke loudly. There were actually many people present with expressions of approval on their faces. This is Archbishop Angeli, even the head of state must kneel in front of him. Henry Jong, who has no official position, dares to be so disrespectful. I don't know, who are you? Henry Jong looked at the man. The man spoke proudly, I am Park Ishung, the director of the Space Bureau of the Western Eight Kingdoms. Let me go, it turns out it's you. Henry Jong looked shocked and in awe. Hu Yisheng said modestly, my reputation is indeed very great, but compared to His Excellency the Zhu family, it is far behind. No, I don't know who the Archbishop is, but I have admired your name for a long time. Henry Jong said quickly. Hu Shengsheng's face was horrified, as if he was afraid of offending the Archbishop, but his eyes were extremely proud. Park Yisheng, when he was 30 years old, he encountered a strange shape of a sow. In order to escape for your life, you slept with the sow for 3 days and 3 nights. It's really admirable. Henry Jong opened his mouth leisurely and asked curiously. You are so weak now and have no yang energy at all. Is it because you were sucked dry? Henry Jong's words made Park Yisheng's face turn the color of pig liver. In the hall, even more suppressed laughter erupted. These laughters were like sharp swords, stabbing hard into Park Yisheng's heart, causing him immense pain. Zan Jong, you are so unreasonable. His eyes were red, and he looked at Henry Jong with anger and even resentment. Henry Jong sneered and said, you asked me to kneel down, you were the first to be unreasonable. The Pope of Light is the spiritual belief of superpowers all over the world. As a superpower, it is your honor to kneel before the Archbishop. Park Yisheng said loudly. Oh, then I also said that it would be an honor for you to let the sow play weirdly for 3 days and 3 nights. Henry Jong said calmly. Zan Jong, how dare you humiliate me like this, I will fight you. Hu Yisheng roared angrily, and a very powerful energy wave erupted from his body. That fluctuation suddenly reached an S-level. Duel. Henry Jong looked interested. That's right, the highest level of duel in the supernatural world. Park said with grief and anger, You have insulted my character, I want to fight you. Okay. Henry Zhang nodded casually. Zhan Zhang, don't promise him. Zhao Hao suddenly woke up and reminded, do you know what the highest level of duel is? What's wrong? Henry Zhang asked curiously. This duel is even more terrifying than a life and death duel. The losing party must obey the winner's orders unconditionally. If you don't obey, it will even harm your family. No one else can interfere. Zhao Hao said in a low voice with a sullen face, I'm afraid Pu Yisheng deliberately angered you and wanted you to duel with him. He wants to get the trick control skills that can be practiced in the Western 8 kingdoms. At this time, everyone present also reacted, and immediately beat their feet and chests, and did not rush to duel with Henry Zhang. Even Anjali took a deep look at Park Yisheng. Pu Yisheng's face was cold, and he no longer looked as manic and irritable as before. He is indeed acting. Xiao Ziba is quite shady. Henry Zhang nodded with emotion. Don't promise him. Zhao Hao said quickly. What, Henry Zhang, are you afraid? Pu Yisheng showed disdain on his face and spread his thighs. It doesn't matter if we don't duel. If you get under my crotch, I will forgive your offense. No need, since you want to compete, as you wish. Henry Zhang stood up calmly and came to Pu Yisheng. Pu Yisheng saw Zhang Zan coming to him, and finally couldn't help showing a look of ecstasy on his face. Young man, since you knew it was a trap, you actually stepped in. You are so brainless. Park Yisheng laughed proudly. This fool Park Yisheng got the better of him. HMPH, it doesn't matter. How dare Pu Yisheng not listen to what I, the Pope of Light, say? That's right, there is no difference between Park Yisheng's acquisition of Henry Zhang as a slave and ours. The people around him ranged from regretful to indifferent. Tisk, how weak am I in your eyes? Henry Zhang looked at everyone and asked in disbelief. Have you never thought that I would win? Will you win? Everyone was stunned for a moment, and the hall instantly burst into violent laughter. What's so funny? Henry Zhang frowned. Pu Yisheng sneered and said. Zhan Zhang, my ranking among the top 10 superpowers in the world is 9th. Your strongest Lin Chenjiang in China is only 10th. Now, do you understand why everyone laughs at you? Pu Yisheng looked at Henry Zhang with pity. Become my slave for the rest of your life, it is your honor. Speaking of Lin Chenjiang, why didn't he show up this time? I heard that he was killed by a powerful weirdo. China has been hiding the news. It's a pity that China has lost Lin Chenjiang, and there will be no masters left. Humph, but Yujuju appears. Does God really bless China? It doesn't matter, Yujuju will soon belong to us in the West. The people around started chatting again, and seemed to be convinced that Henry Zhang was defeated. That's enough, let's start quickly. Henry Zhang shook his head helplessly, no longer interested in continuing to communicate with Shabi. Zhan Zhang, wait a moment. Suddenly, the chief stopped the duel. Henry Zhang frowned and looked at him. Don't you believe me too? Pu Yisheng's expression changed and he spoke quickly. Sir, even you can't stop our duel. Angelet looked at the chief and said calmly, we respect you, but please don't hinder our affairs in the supernatural world. The chief glanced at them and ignored them. He looked at Henry Zhang and said, I want to say, don't make this place full of blood and continue the meeting. No problem. Henry Zhang nodded swornly and said confidently. My control over power has reached an extremely low level. I can do without even a trace of blood. That's good. Let's get started. The chief smiled. You pissed me off. Pu Yisheng's clothes bulged and his hair floated up. There was a hint of thunder in his eyes, causing the lights in the hall to flicker. Here it comes, it's Park Yisheng's thunder power. The power of thunder is one of the most powerful abilities. Everyone looked at Park Yisheng solemnly. After all, Park Yisheng is one of the top 10 players in the world, and few people present can defeat him. All the thunder methods in the world come from our Western 8 kingdoms. Today I will let you taste me. Pu Yisheng groaned, arcs of electricity began to flash on his body, and lightning condensed in his hands. Henry Zhang buttoned his ears, and his figure suddenly blurred. Puff! A fist burst out of the void and hit Park Yisheng's head. His head exploded like a watermelon, and blood splattered all over the floor. Thump! Park Yisheng's headless body fell to the ground, and arcs of electricity were still flashing on his body. It was only then that Henry Zhang's figure became clear from the blur. He looked down at Pu Yisheng's headless body with confusion on his face. What were you talking about just now? I didn't hear it clearly. Everyone present looked at Park Yisheng's body blankly, as if they had lost the ability to think. They didn't even see clearly how Park Yisheng died. When did Henry Zhang suddenly appear in front of Pu Yisheng from 10 meters away? Could it be that Henry Zhang has the power of space and can change his body and sneak attack on Park Yisheng? Everyone secretly guessed. Angelet's pupils had long shrunk to the extreme. He could see clearly where Henry Zhang was changing places. He was too fast and surpassed human sight. Oops. Henry Zhang's expression suddenly changed. He made a mistake. Everyone looked at Henry Zhang's expression and looked confused. You killed the 9th of the top 10 superpowers in the world instantly, what else do you have to be dissatisfied with? I promised to control the power, why did I blow his head off again? Henry Zhang looked annoyed. I have tried my best to restrain my strength. Everyone, are you a dog? Is this showing off? He killed the top 10 masters in the world in 1 second and said he was trying to conserve his power as much as possible. Versailles is not as ruthless as you. Ahem, no problem. The chief couldn't hold himself any longer. He coughed lightly and said, just pay attention next time. Don't worry, you won't make a mistake next time. Henry Zhang glanced at everyone. Would any of you give me a chance? I want to prove myself. Everyone was sweating violently, lowered their heads, and avoided Henry Zhang's gaze. Even Angeli's face twitched a few times when Henry Zhang's eyes were on him, and he averted his eyes. That little man, apart from Pu Yisheng, you were the one who danced the most joyfully just now. Henry Zhang pointed at a man wearing a ninja uniform. We also passed 2 tricks. Master Zhang, you are joking. Our island nation has long known your reputation. The man nodded and bowed obsequiously. What's more, we both belong to the Chinese circle, and you are our guiding light. How can I dare to fight with you? Everyone looked askance. You Murata is the 7th strongest person in the world after all, why are you so cowardly? Henry Zhang glanced at Murata. This guy seemed to be a dirty trick. Yu Huasha went too far and actually killed Pu Yisheng. The leader of the Western 8 Kingdoms stood up. He avoided Zhang Zan's eyes and looked at the leader with an angry look. The chief frowned and said coldly, isn't it that you, the Western 8 Kingdoms, initiated the challenge first? Even if it's a challenge, you shouldn't kill him. Park Taishu said sadly and angrily, we all belong to the human race, and now that things are weird, shouldn't we work together? General Park Yisheng killed countless weirdos in his life, and paid countless tears and blood and sweat for the world. Now Park Taishu knelt on the ground, his voice choked with sobs and he looked at the sky with grief and anger. Such a human hero, he died at the hands of humans. How ironic is this? You Chinese people are the masters of the event and have not shouldered the responsibility. Now they are killing innocent people indiscriminately, with no regard for the common people. Are you Chinese really so cold-blooded and ruthless? Park Taishu's tearful accusation aroused empathy in many weak countries. These countries have small populations and fewer strong people. There are only 10 strong people like Park Yisheng in the world. It's so heartbreaking that he died so easily. It's such a good show. If you go to film it, you will be the best actor. Henry Zhang clapped his hands with admiration on his face. Murderous devil, how can you still say such words? Park Taishu said sadly and angrily, have you all seen it? This is China. Well said. Henry Zhang looked curious. It's just that I don't understand. What were you doing when Park Yisheng launched the challenge? Why didn't you stop me when no one thought I would win and thought I would become Park's slave? There was a smile on Henry Zhang's lips, but his eyes were extremely cold. He wants to enslave me, but you don't say anything. I kill him, and you can't sit still. Why are you pretending to be a fool with me? Henry Zhang's voice resounded throughout the hall, making everyone fall silent. Yes, what's wrong with Henry Zhang? But Henry is stronger, otherwise the corpse lying there might be Henry. Zhan Zhang is my hero of China. The chief also stood up and said coldly. As a guest, you insulted me, the hero of China. Do you think death can end this matter? Delusion. The chief looked at Park Taishu coldly and scolded. For what the Western 8 Kingdoms have done, China will definitely fight back, and you must pay the price. Do I still have to pay the price? Park Taishu was dumbfounded. How could this happen? He looked for help at Angeli and at the president of the Bald Eagle country. Angelet sighed and walked forward. Sir, this matter is indeed the fault of the Western aid nations. However, please understand the pain in the hearts of our countries and organizations. Do you understand your pain? The chief frowned. Yes, we have seen that the people in China have acquired the controlling art, and their strength has been greatly improved. Under the strange erosion, we finally gained a firm foothold. While our countries are rejoicing, we are also sad in our hearts. Because we cannot practice the controlling art. Angelet looked pitifully and sighed softly. That's why Pu Yisheng took the wrong path in a single thought. China is a country of etiquette and has a broad mind. Please forgive the Western 8 kingdoms. After Angelet finished speaking, he bowed deeply. Your Excellency the Archbishop. Hundreds of top figures from countries and organizations present could not help but feel excited, with moved looks in their eyes. At the same time, when they looked at Hua Sha, although they were not resentful yet, the resentment was very obvious. The chief frowned and looked at Angelet sharply. This archbishop is very resourceful. In a few words, he didn't say anything too much, and he even sold him miserably. But it has caused everyone to share the same hatred, and the look in his eyes seemed as if Hua Sha had done something heinous. Henry Zhang smiled and said, Look what you said, I'm not a villain. Okay, I forgive you. But you must not do it again. Henry Zhang looked at Pu Yisheng's body and nodded happily. He didn't move. He must have realized his mistake. Everyone, co-author, if you kill someone, you have to make them admit their mistake, right? Henry Zhang looked at everyone and said, This matter is over. Let's continue communicating. I'll withdraw first. After Henry Zhang finished speaking, he wandered around and wanted to leave. Seeing that Henry Zhang was leaving, everyone was anxious. Zhan Zhang, you can't leave. Someone shouted. Henry Zhang's eyes widened. Why, do you also want to have a duel between men? The man shrank his head in fear and hid quickly. Ha ha ha, that's so interesting. Suddenly, a tall man with muscles all over his body and fierce eyes walked out. He looked at Angelet and smiled. Angelet, as the archbishop, you used your eloquent words to morally kidnap Henry Zhang. Do you think he will obediently hand over the art of cunning? It looks like a clever method, but in fact it is very childish. Who is not an elite here? Do you really think you believe your lies? He looked around and sneered. You guys, one by one, if anyone is really moved by Angelet's words, I will take off my head and let you play it as a ball. That's right. To put it bluntly, everyone's goal is Mr. Zhang Zan's trickery, why bother using these vomiting methods? On the other side, a man wearing aristocratic clothing and a pale face, as if he had not seen the sun all year round, slowly walked out. Henry Zhang turned around, smiled and said, I thought all the superpowers in all countries were people like Angeli. I didn't expect there to be such true-hearted people as you. I've met Mr. Henry Zhang. Both of them bowed slightly to Henry Zhang. Hello everyone, I've admired your name for a long time. Henry Zhang cupped his hands and asked, So, who are you? Forehead. The strong man was stunned and said, I am the president of the Werewolf Union, Dong Lin. The noble man bowed gracefully. I am the leader of the vampire clan, Edward. Oh, it's you. Henry Zhang suddenly nodded. In the Western world, the Pope of Light, the Werewolf Guild and the Blood Tribe are the three most powerful organizations of superpowers. However, the Pope of Light acted domineeringly and regarded these two organizations as heretics. These two organizations can only join forces to fight against the Pope of Light. You guys are very nice. We can chat alone later. Henry Zhang smiled and nodded at the two of them. Thank you, Mr. Henry Zhang. The two people showed joy on their faces and bowed quickly to show respect. Angelet's face was calm, but the veins in his hand holding the crutches were prominent. However, despite being in a high position all year round, he could not say any weak words. At this time, I could only watch helplessly as my old rival received Henry Zhang's kindness. At this time, the leaders of various countries also saw that Zhang Zan was willing to take the soft side rather than the hard side, and quickly gathered around Zhang Zan. They used all their compliments to completely ignore the archbishop who had been praised by the stars just a moment ago. Archbishop, these people are so greedy for profit. They have completely forgotten the glory of the Lord. Murata said angrily. Angelet's expression softened slightly. Archbishop, Don't worry, I'm on your side. Murata patted his chest and whispered. I will go to Henry Jong to inquire about the information now. As long as I get the trick control technique, I will definitely dedicate it to the Archbishop. After Murata finished speaking, he quickly squeezed into the crowd. Lord Zhanjiang, your martial arts today really opened our eyes. There is a strong man like you in the world. It is a blessing to China and a blessing to the world. The flattering expression on Murata's face, his head almost bowed to the ground, made everyone unable to bear to look at him. That's right. With the leadership of Mr. Henry Jong, the weirdness will be swept away. The restoration of peace in the world is just around the corner. This all depends on Mr. Henry Jong's divine power and his incredible tricks. Not to be outdone, everyone praised loudly. The Archbishop looked at this scene expressionlessly, and his body emitted terrifying energy fluctuations. For a moment, everyone in the hall felt as if a huge mountain was pressing down on them. Unable to breathe, gradually suffocating, Long Xiaoyun frowned, walked to the leader's side, and gave him a gentle nudge. A bit of golden light blended into the pale leader's body, instantly making his face turn red. Even the chief felt that his vitality suddenly became more vigorous. Miss Long's skills are not much worse than Henry Jong's. The chief sighed softly. Long Xiaoyun curled his lips and said somewhat depressedly, I can't beat him. But your ability to treat people is beyond compare to Henry Jong, right? The chief smiled. Long Xiaoyun couldn't help but smile. However, she soon became depressed again. She is a warrior and does not want to be a wet nurse. That's the position of that little girl Shen Zi. I won't compete with her. I want to stand by this fool's side and fight with him. Long Xiaoyun looked at Henry Jong's back and clenched his fists. Shen Zi glanced at Long Xiaoyun and thought to herself. Do you think you are the only one who is not willing to give in? I don't want to just be his little girl either. At this time, there was silence in the hall. The Archbishop was so angry that the whole world was shaken. At this time, everyone felt regretful that they should not have ignored the Archbishop so much. Henry Jong pushed aside the crowd and slowly walked towards the Archbishop. Archbishop, you look a little ugly. Are you sick? Henry Jong spoke calmly as he walked. With every step and word he made, Henry Jong's momentum began to surge. In fact, his momentum was so well controlled that only Angelette could fully feel it. When Henry Jong was 10 steps away, Angelette's expression changed slightly. When Henry Jong reached the 7th step, the veins on Angelette's hands were exposed and his body was trembling slightly. 5 steps later, Angelette no longer cared about his manners. His beard and hair were flying, and all the magic weapons on his body released strong light, resisting the pressure on Henry Jong. Everyone was shocked. The magic weapon on the Archbishop's body has been passed down for thousands of years, and is ancient and powerful. Now, just to resist the pressure on Henry Jong, the Archbishop actually used these magic weapons. Angelette is the 3rd strongest man in the world. Even the leader of the Blood Clan and the president of the Werewolf Union are no match for him. Now, he was so embarrassed by the young man Zhang Zan. We were wrong. Murata looked shocked and murmured. Compared to the art of controlling tricks, Henry Jong himself is more important. Everyone nodded in agreement. Henry Jong came within 3 steps. Crack! Angelette's calf sank directly into the floor. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and he looked at Henry Jong in horror. Fear finally appeared in his eyes, and he opened his mouth slightly. Facing such a strong man, it seemed that it was not shameful to beg for mercy. However, Henry Jong has long disliked this old guy, so how could he give him a chance to beg for mercy? He took the last step fiercely. Puff! Angeli spurted blood from his mouth and his body shook violently. Boom! His body involuntarily fell to his knees on the ground. There were even 2 deep holes in the floor. Puff! Angelette was lying on the ground, his body shaking violently, moaning softly. Sir, spare my life. Why are you vomiting blood? It seems like you are really sick. Henry Jong knelt down and patted Angelette on the head with a smile. That gesture was like stroking a dog. Angelette didn't dare to have any anger, he just looked at Henry Jong with begging eyes. Henry Jong stood up, the smile on his face disappeared, and he looked down at Angelette coldly. You have provoked me over and over again, who gave you the courage? Sir, I was wrong. Angelette opened his mouth in pain. I am willing to pay the price and ask for your forgiveness. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.